Chapter 2368. I'm in love with you. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Li Dashan looked at Qin Feiyang and the black-haired old man from afar. His eyes shone with an inexplicable light. What are you thinking? The woman in black asked. In the past, I couldn't wait for this Gao guy to die. But now, I hope that both of them will suffer great losses. Li Dashan sneered secretly. Why? The woman in black asked. Because no matter which side wins, it won't be good for us. Let's talk about the young city lord first. If the young city lord wins, he will definitely order the massacre of Yinshan village. At that time, we won't be able to escape death. This Gao Xiaosan seems to be a ruthless person. We snatched his Nirvana divine tree back then. He will definitely not let it go. The most important thing is, if Gao Xiaosan wins, we won't dare to touch Li Yuntai in the future. So it will only be good for us if both of them suffer great losses. I even have a crazy idea. After both of them suffer great losses, I will kill them all. Li Dashan sneered. What? The woman in black was shocked. This was too crazy. As long as they are all dead, not only can we solve the crisis, but we can also get the legendary artifacts, soul stones, and a lot of treasures in Gao Xiaosan's hands. Li Dashan said secretly. Don't be impulsive. Even if they all die here, there is still the City Lord Mansion. If the City Lord Mansion investigates, how are we going to explain it? The woman in black asked. Don't worry about this. If the City Lord Mansion comes to investigate, we can push the blame of the young City Lord's death to Gao Xiaosan. Tell the City Lord Mansion that Gao Xiaosan has fled. Won't we be fine then? Li Dashan said. What about these villagers? They are all watching now. If you really do this, how are you going to shut their mouths? The woman said secretly. This is simpler. They won't dare to tell the truth. Because once they tell the truth, will the City Lord Mansion let them go? Li Dashan sneered. The black-robed woman was stunned for a moment before she replied. That seems to be the case. So, as long as both sides are injured, our plan will succeed. If these villagers really don't cooperate with us, we'll just take the treasure and leave after killing Gao Xiaosan and the others. The Divine Land is so big. How can the City Lord's Mansion of the Black Rock City find us? Li Dashan sneered. That makes sense. Then let's hope that this Gao Xiaosan really has the ability to make both sides suffer. The black-robed woman transmitted her voice. Li Dashan nodded imperceptibly and raised his head to look at Qin Feiyang. In the blink of an eye, the black-haired old man's god force was ferocious, and the power he exuded was extremely terrifying. In the eyes of Li Yuntai and the others, it was like the power of the heavens. However, Qin Feiyang's expression did not change. He didn't even move, as if he had given up on resisting. Is he waiting for death? Li Yuntai and the others were flustered. Just as the divine power was about to strike, Qin Feiyang made his move. He slowly raised his arm, and a wisp of crimson grace suddenly swept out from his fingertips. A monstrous murderous intent burst out. In an instant, everyone present felt as if they were drowned in a sea of murderous intent, and they couldn't help but feel cold all over. The black-haired old man was also shocked. This murderous intent was simply unheard of. But what surprised him even more was yet to come. Boom. Crimson grace and the black-haired old man's god force collided. Suddenly, accompanied by a deafening sound, scarlet gracefulness crushed everything in its path. That god force was no match at all. How is this possible? The black-haired old man was dumbfounded. How could a low-level god emperor destroy the god power of a half-step paragon god? Could it be that he was hiding his cultivation? While he was distracted, crimson grace entered his lower abdomen at an unimaginable speed. Ah! His scream immediately resounded through the sky. There was a bloody hole in the black-haired old man's lower abdomen, and blood was gushing out crazily. His old face was distorted by the pain. The people present, including the young city lord and the 10 black-armored guards, were all glaring angrily. Not only did he easily destroy the black-haired old man's god force, but he also instantly destroyed his sea of qi? Was this a dream? Then, Li Yuntai and the others cheered. Haha, there was hope. There was hope. The black-haired old man was the strongest among the people brought by the junior city master. As long as he was destroyed, everything would be fine. The junior city master and the 10 black armored guards came back to their senses, and immediately looked at the wisp of crimson grace floating in the void in front of Qin Feiyang. Their eyes were full of surprise. What was that? How could its power be so terrifying that it broke through the barrier of a big realm? Could it be that it had already surpassed the legendary level? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The black-haired old man suddenly roared, as if he had gone mad. How could a mere lesser divine lord be stronger than him, a half-divine lord? It must be an illusion. Was being a half-divine lord a joke? Boom. He suddenly stared at Qin Feiyang, his eyes bloodshot. Waves of divine consciousness surged out. Oh no, I forgot that he still has divine consciousness. Li Yuntai's eyelids twitched. Even if his sea of qi was destroyed, the black-haired old man's divine consciousness was enough to kill a peak divine lord. I don't believe that you have this ability. Go to hell. The black-haired old man roared. His divine consciousness immediately turned into a torrent and swept across the sky. Qin Feiyang didn't say anything. He directly used his actions to prove his point. Swoosh. The crimson grace in front of him instantly cut across the sky and blasted toward the old man's divine consciousness. Boom. There was no room for resistance. The old man's divine consciousness was instantly shattered. The black-haired old man immediately held his head and screamed. The destruction of his divine consciousness was like the destruction of his divine soul. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly. The crimson grace went straight between the black-haired old man's eyebrows like a bolt of lightning. No. A fatal crisis suddenly appeared in his heart. Staring at the crimson grace, the black-haired old man's face was full of horror. He even forgot to dodge. It wasn't his fault, because in the face of such an unbelievable thing, anyone would be as frightened as him and instinctively give up resistance. But Qin Feiyang was not moved at all. Puff. The crimson grace disappeared between the old man's eyebrows. Ah! Accompanied by a shrill scream, the black-haired old man's head exploded like a watermelon. Blood stained the sky. He's dead. The young city master, Fu Wentai, and the 10 black-armored guards stared blankly at the black-haired old man who slowly fell to the ground. A half-step divine lord was killed just like that? And he was killed in an instant without being able to fight back. It couldn't be real. It couldn't be real. The guards rubbed their eyes hard, but the black-haired old man's tragic death didn't change at all. He was really dead. A low-level divine lord killed a half-step divine lord in an instant? It was ridiculous. However, such a ridiculous thing was happening right in front of their eyes. Li Yuntai and the others were also stunned. They didn't expect Qin Feiyang's strength to be so terrifying. Li Dashan, his wife, and Li Yuan were all soaked in cold sweat. They even wanted to sneak up on him before? How naive and childish it was. Such a terrifying guy was not someone they could afford to offend. Now you should believe it. But you don't have a chance to speak. Qin Feiyang's eyes were calm as he looked at the black-haired old man falling all the way to the village below and muttered to himself. Amazing. He's my idol. I want to worship him as my teacher. I want to be like him and punish evil. Looking at Qin Feiyang, Li Feng clenched his fists and his eyes were burning. This was his first goal in life. And that was to become an expert like Qin Feiyang. Swish. All of a sudden, Qin Feiyang looked at the young city master, Fu Wentai, and the 10 black-armored guards. This time, whether it was the young city master, Fu Wentai, or the 10 black-armored guards, they were no longer as arrogant as before. Their faces were pale, and their bodies were trembling. Their eyes were filled with fear. I'm telling you, don't mess around. My father is the city master of Black Rock City. If you dare to touch a hair of mine, my father will bring people to flatten Yunshan village. And you can't escape death even if you run to the ends of the earth. The young man in purple pretended to be calm and said. However, he didn't pretend at all. Whether it was his expression or his tone, he didn't seem confident and couldn't hide the panic and fear in his heart. Is that so? Qin Feiyang said lightly. The young man in purple nodded. Qin Feiyang said. It seems that you didn't take what I said at the beginning to heart. At the beginning? What did you say? The young man in purple was surprised. Fu Wentai and the 10 black armored guards were also suspicious. Li Yuntai and the others were also deep in thought. Suddenly, Li Yuntai looked up at Qin Feiyang and asked, "Brother Gao, are you referring to this sentence? As long as we kill them and then go to Black Rock City to kill his father and his bodyguards, the city master's mansion won't let anyone come to Yunshan village?" When everyone heard this, they looked at Li Yuntai and Qin Feiyang. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Damn. Looking at his expression, it seems that he really wants to go to Black Rock City. The villagers murmured. The young man in purple was also surprised. Qin Feiyang looked at the young man in purple and said lightly, "Even your father is going to die. Do you think that I will be afraid of your threat now?" The young man in purple trembled both physically and mentally. He couldn't help but feel desperate in his heart. It seems that there is no way to get rid of Yunshan village. I have to find a chance to escape, Fu Wentai thought to himself. He went to curry favor with the young man in purple in order to massacre Yunshan village. But now, the young man in purple couldn't even protect himself. Why was he still following him? Courting death? He wouldn't do such a stupid thing. At the same time, Li Dashan and his wife looked at each other with flickering eyes. "Madam, what do you think we should do?" Li Dashan suddenly transmitted his voice. The woman in black looked at Li Dashan and Qin Feiyang with deep fear in her eyes. She said to herself, "No matter what you do, I will support you." Li Dashan heard this and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He glanced at Li Yuan who was standing behind Li Yuntai and transmitted his voice. "Attack Li Yuntai now." What? Li Yuan was shocked. Attack Li Yuntai now? Wasn't this digging his own grave? Chapter 2369. Falling in Love with You. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Do as I say. Li Dashan shouted. Brother Dashan, no. Aren't we courting death if we attack Li Yuntai now? Li Yuan hurriedly transmitted his voice. Would Qin Feiyang let him go if he attacked Li Yuntai sneakily? Even the black-haired old man, a demigod, was no match for him, let alone him. More importantly, he even dared to kill people from the governor's mansion. What else did he not dare to do? If he angered this man, he would be killed in minutes. You have no choice but to listen to me, or I will tell Li Yuntai that you colluded with us, Li Dashan said secretly. What? You? Li Yuan's heart was suddenly filled with anger. If I really tell Li Yuntai, I believe you know the consequences. But if you listen to me, I promise you will survive, and you will have a chance to rise to the top. Li Dashan tempted. Rise to the top? Li Yuan was slightly stunned and said secretly, make it clear. Attack Li Yuntai and use him as a hostage to threaten Gao Shaosan. In this way, we will save the young governor's life. As the saying goes, it is better to provide timely assistance than to add flowers to a brocade. Now the young governor is in a difficult situation. If we stand out and help him get out of danger, what will he do? He will definitely be grateful to us, and will definitely put us in an important position. Then we will follow him and enjoy endless glory and wealth, Li Dashan said. If we really do this, what about the villagers? Even if Gao Shaosan is dead, the young governor will definitely not let the villagers go, Li Yuan said secretly. They are just a bunch of trash. If they die, they die. If you want to achieve great things, you have to be ruthless. Are you going to do it or not? Li Dashan shouted impatiently. Li Yuan's face was uncertain. But in the end he couldn't hold back. Driven by greed, he took out a dagger and directly stabbed Li Yuntai's heart from the back when he was not paying attention. Ah! Li Yuntai immediately screamed and looked back. His eyes were full of disbelief. Li Yuan actually sneak attacked him? Don't blame me. Li Yuan smiled ferociously. He pulled out a dagger and placed it on Li Yuntai's neck. He looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted, Gao Shaosan, stop or I'll kill him. When Qin Feiyang heard this, he looked down, but his expression didn't change at all. However, the surrounding villagers were enraged. Li Yuan, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Put down the dagger. The people shouted. Crazy. Li Yuan swept his gaze over the villagers and laughed loudly. It's not that I'm crazy, it's that you guys are too stupid. What did you say? Everyone glared at him. Li Yuntai is soft-hearted and has no guts. What qualifications does he have to lead our Yunshan village? Li Yuan said disdainfully. Li Yuntai was dumbfounded. At first, he thought that he was dreaming. Only when he heard Li Yuan's words did he realize that it wasn't a dream. It was real. The brother that he had always regarded as his family, who he talked to about everything, stabbed him in the back. The young man in purple, Fu Wentai, and the 10 guards were also dumbfounded. Killing each other? What kind of show was this? Ha ha. At this moment, there was a loud laugh. Everyone looked over and saw Li Dashan raising his head and laughing. The woman in black didn't hide it anymore. Her face was full of sneers. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked at the couple. When he saw their expressions, he vaguely knew what was going on. But the villagers didn't understand. Li Dashan, what are you laughing at? Is this funny? Someone said angrily. Of course it's funny. Ha ha. Li Dashan laughed again. When he finally stopped, he immediately took the woman in black and flew toward the young city lord. Seeing this, the 10 guards immediately stood in front of the young city lord and stared at Li Dashan and his wife vigilantly. Li Dashan smiled and said, Young city lord, don't misunderstand. I'm here to help you. Help me? The young man in purple was slightly stunned. He waved his hand and signaled the 10 guards in black to step back. The 10 of them stepped aside. Li Dashan and his wife walked to the young man in purple. How can you help me? The young man in purple asked. Li Dashan said, Young city lord, didn't you see it? I asked Li Yuan to sneak attack Li Yuntai to help you. It's because of you. Li Dashan, you really don't change. You scum. What good will it do you to hurt the village chief? Li Yuan, you're also a beast. Brother Yuntai treats you so well. He treats you like a brother. How can you treat him like this? If you still have a conscience, you should kill Brother Yuntai right now. The dozen phenomenal divine emperors in the village stared at Li Yuan angrily. And find a chance to save Li Yuntai. If you dare to move, I'll kill Li Yuntai right now. Li Yuan shouted. He slightly pressed the dagger in his hand, and a bloody wound appeared on Li Yuntai's neck. Blood flowed out. Uncle Yuan, why did you do this? Did Li Dashan instigate you? Don't be fooled by him. He's using you. Li Feng ran up to persuade him. Get lost. Li Yuan kicked him. Li Feng spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground like a meteorite. Bastard! How dare you hurt Xiaofeng, who has always respected you and treated you as a family member? The 2 great success god lords immediately roared angrily and charged toward Li Yuan aggressively. Don't come over! Li Yuan shouted hurriedly. He pressed the dagger in his hand a little harder. The wound on Li Yuntai's neck became deeper. The 2 phenomenal divine emperors quickly stopped. Li Yuan sneered and stared at Li Yuntai. Don't resist. Otherwise, I'll chop off your head and go to the young city lord immediately. It's not too late to stop now. Li Yuntai was heartbroken. He trusted and was such a close brother. How could he sneak attack him from behind? How disappointing. Cut the crap. Go. Li Yuan shouted. You'll regret this. Li Yuntai took a deep breath and flew up into the sky. Weapons have no eyes. Don't come over. Stay here. Li Yuan grabbed Li Yuntai and shouted at the villagers. Soon, the 2 of them flew to the opposite side of Qin Feiyang. Don't move. Li Yuan stared at Qin Feiyang with a threatening look in his eyes. Qin Feiyang just looked at him silently. Finally, Li Yuan flew to the young city lord with Li Yuntai and said with a flattering smile, Young city lord, Li Yuntai is the bargaining chip. Bargaining chip. The young man in purple murmured. Suddenly he realized something. Young city lord, now that Li Yuntai and his daughter are in our hands, Gao Shaosen will have to hold back no matter how strong he is. Li Dashan said with a smile. Haha. The young man in purple laughed and looked at Li Yuan and Li Dashan. Well done. When we return to Blackrock City, I'll reward you handsomely. Thank you, young city lord. The 3 of them thanked him. The young man in purple smiled and looked down at Qin Feiyang. He said proudly, Gao Shaosan, have you seen it? This is the difference between identity and status. For someone like you who has no identity and status, No one will help you even if you beg. But for someone like me it's different. I have a family background. Even if I don't ask, someone will take the initiative to help me." As he spoke, the young man in purple could not help but laugh proudly. "That's true." Qin Feiyang nodded. "Then quickly put down the divine artifact for this young master and surrender." The young man in purple shouted. Qin Feiyang laughed and asked, "What if I don't put down the divine artifact and surrender?" "That's easy. I'll let my subordinates cut the father and daughter into pieces piece by piece." The young man in purple laughed cruelly. Qin Feiyang simply took out a chair, placed it in the void, and sat down on it. He crossed his legs and said with a smile, "Please start your performance." The young man in purple was stunned. He did not care about the father and daughter's lives? Junior city governor, he must be pretending to be calm to scare us. Li Dashan sneered. Pretending to be calm? Qin Feiyang was stunned and said in surprise, "How do you know?" Li Dashan looked at Qin Feiyang and sneered. "I'm curious. Why did you betray Yunshan village? I don't think it's just to curry favor with this rich kid." Qin Feiyang said playfully. "Who are you calling a rich kid? I dare you to say it again." The young man in purple shouted. Qin Feiyang did not bother with him. He looked at the gloomy Li Dashan and said mockingly, "Not going to say it? Then let me guess. Is it because you stole my Nirvana divine tree, and are afraid that I'll take revenge on you? So you chose to side with the junior city governor to survive? What? The Nirvana divine tree belongs to Gao Shaosan?" The villagers were stunned. The young man in purple, the 10 guards Li Yuntai, Li Yuan, and Li He were also very surprised. Li Dashan glanced at everyone and stared at Qin Feiyang. He said angrily, "So what? You dare to touch me now?" No. To be honest, I kind of admire you. Because you're smarter than ordinary people. Your decision is also correct. Because if it were me, I would also take down Li Yuntai and side with the junior city governor. But you also made a fatal mistake. At the end, Qin Feiyang grinned. What mistake? Li Dashan frowned. You picked the wrong target. If it were someone else today, like the villagers below, your plan would definitely succeed. But unfortunately, you're facing me. I don't know how many times I've seen this kind of disgusting trick in my life. Qin Feiyang laughed. Li Dashan's pupils shrank. This person was too calm. He had not panicked from beginning to end. Did he have a backup plan? Thinking of this, Li Dashan couldn't help but feel scared. He said in a deep voice, "Junior city governor, let's go first." Go. The young man in purple raised his eyebrows. As the junior city governor of Black Rock City, if he chickened out, wouldn't he be laughed at? I always feel that this person is hiding a trump card. Junior city governor, 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge. For your safety, let's retreat first. Besides, we don't need 10 years. When we return to Black Rock City, find the governor and ask him to send a few stronger people. At that time, we can make a comeback. Who can do anything to you? You can do whatever you want. Li Dashan said in a low voice. Junior city governor, I agree with Li Dashan's suggestion. Fu Wentai's eyes flashed. He also felt that something was not right. Chapter 2370. His expression and eyes were full of confidence. He didn't look nervous at all. If he wasn't pretending to be calm, he must be hiding a trump card. This person's strength was obvious to all. He could even kill a half-transcendent god. If Li Yuntai and his daughter couldn't threaten him, they would be the ones to die. When the purple-clothed youth heard this, he looked at Qin Feiyang who was sitting on the chair. His eyes flickered. Let's go. In the end, he listened to Li Dashan and his son. He didn't want to take the risk. He heard about it. A black armored guard immediately activated a teleportation altar. Qin Feiyang continued to watch silently and didn't stop him. Whoosh. A group of people took Li Yuntai and his daughter and jumped onto the altar. Don't be smug. You'll die soon. Yin Mountain Village. I want this place to be littered with corpses and rivers of blood. The young man in purple stared at Qin Feiyang and sneered. Qin Feiyang was still unmoved. He sat on the chair leisurely, as if he didn't want to save Li Yuntai and his daughter. Brother Gao, save Xiaohe, save Uncle Yuntai. Li Feng was very anxious. If it weren't for someone holding him back, he would have rushed forward. Brother Gao, we know you're not related to us. You have no obligation to help us. But now, you're the only one in Yun Mountain Village who can stop them. Brother Gao, please save the village chief and Xiaohe. It's not easy for them. The other villagers also cried out one after another, their faces full of pleading. But Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to them. The altar was quickly activated. Crimson light dyed the sky. The villagers were already burning with anxiety. Whoosh. However, at this moment, Qin Feiyang suddenly stood up. He used the walk formula and landed beside the altar. He's so fast. The group of people was shocked. Especially Li Dashan and his wife, Li Yuan and the 10 black armored guards. Because their cultivation was higher than the young man in purple, they could feel Qin Feiyang's speed. His speed had surpassed a divine lord and reached the transcendent god level. Not only was he strong enough to kill a half-step supreme god, but his speed was also faster than a monarch god. What kind of monster was he? At this moment, Li Dashan, his wife, and Li Yuan couldn't help but wonder if this was the right thing to do. If I didn't ask you to leave, do you think you can leave? Qin Feiyang said indifferently. He slapped the altar with his palm. Crack. The legendary altar shattered on the spot. The group of people fell down in a sorry state. Li Yuan immediately grabbed Li Yuntai and placed him in front of himself like a shield. He looked at Qin Feiyang and shouted, "If you dare to move, I will kill him." In his heart, he was extremely afraid. Even his arms were trembling. Brother Gao, I beg you, you must kill these 3 scum. As for me and Xiaohe, we are not afraid of death. Li Yuntai said expressionlessly. I'm not afraid either. However, Big Brother Gao, I hope that you can be kind and help Yunshan village more in the future. Li He looked pleadingly at Qin Feiyang. Shut up. Li Dashan was furious and slapped Li Yuntai's face. A blood-red handprint appeared immediately. The purple-clothed young man also grabbed Li He's neck and hung her up high, almost suffocating her. Gao III, you have to understand one thing. A powerful dragon can't defeat a local snake. No matter how strong you are, you can't compete with the entire City Lord Mansion. Besides, I'm not afraid to tell you that the City Lord Mansion's backer is the dragons. Can you afford to offend the mighty dragons? The woman in black seemed to be persuading him, but her tone was full of contempt. Dragons, Qin Feiyang murmured. That's right. The real owner of Blackrock City is the messenger of the dragons. His strength has reached consummate transcendent god. He can kill you like a dog. The purple-clothed young man smiled coldly. The messenger of the dragons? Dragons, Qin Feiyang murmured again. It seemed that the dragon's influence had spread to every corner of the divine land. But the point was, why did these people in the City Lord Mansion work for the dragons? Just like the young City Lord and these guards. Didn't they hate the dragons? Even if they were afraid of the dragons, they didn't have to work for the dragons like a dog, right? Are you afraid? It's not too late to kneel and beg for mercy. The purple-clothed young man sneered. Kneel and beg for mercy, Qin Feiyang whispered. At the mention of the dragons, not only the purple-clothed young man, but also Li Dashan's group and the 10 black armored guards were emboldened. Because in this divine land, no one dared to go against the dragons. Haha. Suddenly Qin Feiyang laughed. What are you laughing at? The purple-clothed young man raised his eyebrows. Dragons. If you don't mention the dragons, maybe I'll be merciful and let you go. But you're stupid. You actually used the dragons to threaten me. As the leader of all living things, you actually turned to the dragons and worked for the dragons. I really feel sorry for you. And it's even more ridiculous. Do you think you can win by capturing Li Yuntai and his daughter? You're looking down on me too much. Qin Feiyang roared, and the blood dragon battle soul roared out. Its innate ability was instantly activated. Fu Wentai's expression changed. He had seen this battle soul when he sneaked an attack on Qin Feiyang at the Seven Birds Mountain. Its special ability could even imprison the 3 Black Panthers. He immediately wanted to escape. But Qin Feiyang's speed was faster than his. The Emperor Divine prison suddenly fell. The group of people was immediately imprisoned, and their consciousness went blank for a moment. This moment was only limited to the 10 black armored guards. Because their cultivation was higher than Li Dashan's group, they were perfect divine lords. And the worst were Li Yuan and the purple-clothed young man. The purple-clothed young man was only a perfect divine lord while Li Yuan was only a minor divine lord. Under the Emperor Divine Prison, they couldn't move at all and their consciousness was completely taken away. If Qin Feiyang didn't take the initiative to disperse the Emperor Divine Prison, they wouldn't be able to break free for the rest of their lives. Just as the Emperor Divine Prison fell, Qin Feiyang took a step forward and easily saved Li Yuntai and his daughter from Li Yuan and the purple-clothed young man. Brother Gao, thank you. Brother Gao, thank you. The father and daughter felt like they were dreaming that they could be saved in such a situation. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and waved his hand. The father and daughter left the Emperor Divine Prison. Xiaohe. Brother Yuntai. Are you okay? Li Feng and a large group of villagers immediately rushed into the sky and surrounded the father and daughter. Their faces were full of concern. Li Yuntai cupped his hands and smiled. Thank you for your concern. We're fine. Li Feng stood in front of Li He and reminded her. Xiaohe, be careful in the future. Li He nodded. Boom. At this moment, 10 terrifying auras erupted from the Emperor Divine Prison. They were the 10 black armored guards. They were the first to regain consciousness. Seeing that the young city lord and the others were also imprisoned, they immediately unleashed their auras and attacked the Emperor Divine Prison like zombies. The 10 perfected Sir Gods joined forces and easily broke the Emperor Divine Prison. After the young city lord, Li Dashan and his wife, Fu Wentai, and Li Yuan regained consciousness, they couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. This innate divine ability was too terrifying. Once their bodies were imprisoned and their consciousness was taken away, they could only stand there and wait for death. Why didn't you take the opportunity to kill us? You had the chance to do so just now. Li Dashan stared at Qin Feiyang and asked. Qin Feiyang said lightly. Even ants have the right to struggle. Li Dashan clenched his fists. He really didn't take them seriously. Kill. Even if you have to self-destruct, you must kill him. The young city lord yelled at the 10 black armored guards. Then he left the crowd behind and fled without looking back. Fu Wentai, Li Dashan, his wife, and Li Yuan also fled in fear. The 10 black armored bodyguards looked at each other, but in the end, they still charged towards Qin Feiyang. Because they knew, if they fled, the young city lord wouldn't let them go even if they managed to escape. So, they might as well fight with Qin Feiyang. Stubborn. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Clang. The azure phoenix sword tore through the sky, its edge rolling. Accompanied by a series of screams, the black armor on the 10 black armored guards shattered. Their physical bodies were also cut into 8 pieces. Their heads and sea of consciousness were split in half. Their divine souls were annihilated and blood rained down. So powerful. Li Yuntai murmured. His face was full of awe. Li Feng, Li He, and the younger generation of the village were full of admiration. They had never seen such a powerful person. With only the cultivation of a low-level divine lord, he could kill a perfected divine lord. Looking at the young city lord, Fu Wentai, Li Yuan, Li Dashan and his wife, they originally thought that the 10 black armored guards could stall for a while. They didn't expect that they would be killed in seconds without even a chance to self-destruct. What should they do now? Li Dashan and his wife finally began to regret. Why were they so stupid to attack Li Yuntai? If they didn't do so, they might be forgiven by the young city lord and others if they took the initiative to apologize to this person after they died. But now, no matter what they said, the other party would definitely not let them go. Li Yuan was even more regretful. Originally, all of this had nothing to do with him. But because of Li Dashan's slanderous words. Li Dashan, you damn bastard. You really made me suffer. He was still blaming others. He didn't realize his mistake at all. If he wasn't narrow-minded and took the initiative to find Li Dashan and his wife, and let them have something on him, would Li Dashan have threatened him? So, this was actually his own fault. He couldn't blame anyone. Fu Wentai shouted. Split up and run. Split up. Won't we die faster if we split up? Brother Dashan, don't you have a space divine item? Li Yuan exclaimed. Mine is just a low-level space divine item. It can't stop a legendary divine artifact. Li Dashan's face was sullen. He turned to look at the young man in purple and asked, Young city lord, do you have a space divine item? Yes. But its level is not high. The young man in purple said. Then we can only take a gamble. I'll take my wife and Li Yuan into my space divine item. You take Fu Wentai to your space divine item. Let's split up and run. Li Dashan said in a low voice. Okay. The young man in purple nodded. He grabbed Fu Wentai and disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Li Dashan also grabbed the woman in black and disappeared without a trace. Brother Dashan, what about me? Li Yuan stood in the void in a daze. Didn't he say that he would take him with him? Why did he leave him behind? However, he didn't know. Although Li Dashan said so, he didn't want to take him with him at all. Immortal God of War, Immortal God of War. Chapter 2371. Falling in Love with You. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. First of all, Li Yuan's betrayal of Li Yuntai was enough to prove his character. Li Dashan was an old fox. How could he keep such a person by his side? Wasn't this looking for trouble for himself? Second, leaving Li Yuan behind was because they wanted him to buy them some time. Anyway, he would be killed sooner or later. It was better to make use of his value now. In other words, in Li Dashan's eyes, Li Yuan was a pawn that could be abandoned at any time. He had to admit, Li Dashan's mind was indeed different. He could scheme against others anytime and anywhere. But he didn't know Qin Feiyang. In terms of intrigue and intrigue, who was Qin Feiyang afraid of? Since Iron Ox Town, he had been experiencing intrigue. Along the way, he didn't know how many people he had fought. But now, his former enemies had basically disappeared from this world. So, Li Dashan should never have provoked him. How fast was the speed of the movement formula? Although Li Dashan and the others had escaped first, their speed was not comparable to the Xing formula. They didn't even have the qualification to eat the dust behind. Just as Li Dashan and the others entered the space divine object, Qin Feiyang arrived. Divine power. Rolling out. A huge boundary instantly enveloped tens of thousands of miles of land. No matter how fast Li Dashan and the young city lord were, they couldn't escape the boundary in an instant. Similarly, Li Yuan was also locked in the boundary. Seeing Qin Feiyang step into the boundary, Li Yuan was so scared that he directly knelt in the void, his body trembling. Brother Gao, I was confused for a moment and was instigated by Li Dashan and his wife. For the sake of our friendship, please let me go. I don't want to die. I was really confused for a moment. I will definitely correct it. Wait. I will also apologize to Brother Yuntai and beg for his forgiveness. Li Yuan repeatedly shouted, his face full of fear. But Qin Feiyang didn't want to pay attention to him at all. He walked straight past him and didn't even look at Li Yuan. His eyes swept across the void. Li Yuan was stunned. Was she going to ignore him just like that? Suddenly, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He suddenly jumped up and slapped at Qin Feiyang's back. From his point of view, no matter how strong Qin Feiyang was, he was only a small success divine lord. Now that he had launched a sneak attack at such close range, he definitely wouldn't be able to react in time. Furthermore, he would definitely be able to kill him in one hit. As long as he killed this person, he would have made a great contribution, and the young city lord would definitely reward him and put him in an important position. However, while the idea was beautiful, the reality was cruel. It was as if Qin Feiyang had a pair of eyes on the back of his head. After Li Yuan approached, he turned the Azure Phoenix sword in his hand and pointed it behind him. Pucci. Just like that, Li Yuan crashed into the Azure Phoenix sword. The Azure Phoenix sword was indestructible. It immediately pierced through his lower abdomen and came out from his back. How is this possible? Li Yuan was dumbfounded. If sneak attacks were useful, then I would have died countless times in my life. Qin Feiyang said indifferently without turning his head. Such big words. What about when Li Dashan and his wife sneak attacked you? I think I almost died. Li Yuan roared. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to use the 6 words divine formula in the ancient castle, how could Li Dashan and his wife injure him? They probably couldn't even get close to him. Of course, it was undeniable that the two of them had succeeded. However, because of this, they had to die. Boom. An aura was released. Li Yuan was sent flying out of the spirit array and landed right in front of Li Yuntai and the others. Brother Yuntai, Xiaofeng, Xiaohe and everyone, I'm sorry. I was really deceived by Li Dashan and his wife. I'm confused. I'm out of my mind. Please let me go this time, okay? I will turn over a new leaf. Li Yuan immediately knelt in front of Li Yuntai and the others, begging with snot and tears. He didn't care about the wound on his lower abdomen. However, no one paid attention to him. They were all staring at Qin Feiyang inside the spirit array. Even Li Feng and Li He, who were the closest to him in the past, were indifferent and turned a blind eye. Brother Gao, don't let them go. Li Yuntai murmured. The city lord mansion was too scary. Once someone escaped and asked for help from the Black Rock City, not only would Qin Feiyang be in danger, but Yunshan village would also be unable to escape. Qin Feiyang scanned the void, and then looked at the spirit array on all sides. The spirit array was calm. Li Dashan and the young city lord were indeed smart. They didn't use the space divine object to force their way out, because once they forced their way out, the spirit array would shake and the location of the space divine object would naturally be exposed. Therefore, the two of them stopped using the space divine object and stayed inside the spirit array, slowly wasting time with Qin Feiyang. They dared to do so because they had something to rely on. Because their space divine objects were inlaid with soul-concealing stones, they were not afraid of being searched by divine consciousness. Qin Feiyang released his divine consciousness. As expected, he couldn't capture their space divine objects. However, he wasn't in a hurry. Instead, there was a hint of ridicule at the corner of his mouth. If he couldn't even solve such a small problem, then wouldn't the countless bloody battles he had experienced in his life be in vain? Swish! Qin Feiyang stepped out and landed on top of the spirit array. Withdraw! With his low shout, the divine force spirit array immediately began to shrink. Originally, the spirit array covered tens of thousands of miles. But slowly, the spirit array shrank to 10,000 miles, 9,000 miles, 8,000 miles, 7,000 miles. What does he want to do? Li Dashan and his wife, the young man in purple, and Fu Wentai stood in the space divine object, looking at this scene in surprise. Soon, the spirit array shrank to 100 miles. Clang! Following closely, the blue phoenix sword in Qin Feiyang's hand also began to recover, emitting a sharp light that could destroy the world. Oh no! He wants to use an all-around bombardment to shatter the space divine object. Li Dashan and the other three finally realized Qin Feiyang's purpose. The spirit array shrank to 100 miles, which meant that the attack range was also reduced. With the power of the blue phoenix sword, this range could be completely covered. In other words, Qin Feiyang's sword fell. Their space divine object had nowhere to escape. The woman in black shouted, "Dashan, we can't wait for death, quickly break out. Young city lord, quickly break the spirit array." At the same time, Fu Wentai also shouted at the young man in purple. The two immediately drove their respective space divine objects and crashed into the spirit array. Clang! But also at the same time, Qin Feiyang's sword fell, and the spirit array was instantly shattered, and the void was immediately flooded by the sword light. Clang! Sparks appeared in the void. This was the sword chi of the blue phoenix sword, colliding with Li Dashan's space divine object. Crack! Following closely, accompanied by two loud sounds, the two space divine objects shattered on the spot. Li Dashan and the other three also fell out. Without the protection of the space divine object, the sword chi that filled the sky immediately drowned the four of them. However, at the same time, Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the sword chi dissipated into thin air. Li Dashan and the other three were slightly stunned, and turned to look at Qin Feiyang in surprise. If they didn't disperse the sword chi, they would definitely die. And they would die without a complete corpse. But why did he suddenly disperse the sword chi? Didn't he want to kill them? But that shouldn't be the case. If he didn't want to kill them, then why did he chase after them? He could have just let them leave. The black-haired old man is dead, the 10 guards are also dead, and now even the space divine object is gone. I want to ask, what other means do you have to escape? Qin Feiyang looked at the 4 of them indifferently. Hearing this, Li Dashan and the other 3 couldn't help but feel despair in their hearts. That's right. Besides the artifact, what other trump cards did they have? But the artifact in their hands, in front of the legendary artifact, was simply a joke. Very desperate, right? Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. The 4 of them were silent. Yes. Very desperate. They had never been so desperate before. Wait. You haven't killed us again and again. Is it because you want to see us despair? Li Dashan was surprised. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He was seen through? He said with a smile. You're indeed smarter than the average person. You devil. Torturing us, destroying us, what's the point? Li Dashan roared. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine. Because you've also tortured Yunshan village a lot. Of course, I want you to have a taste of despair. Qin Feiyang said. What does this have to do with us? The people who tortured Yunshan village before were the young city lord and Fu Wentai. If you want to torture, torture them. Li Dashan shouted. In my opinion, you're more abominable than them. You've helped the young city lord by attacking Li Yuntai, but for Yunshan village, it's one disaster after another. Now you two just stand there and watch how they end up. Qin Feiyang said as he took a step forward and landed in front of the young man in purple. Don't. The young man in purple was horrified, as if he had seen the god of death, and directly collapsed on the ground. Qin Feiyang said lightly, Do you still remember how you treated Li Feng? The young man in purple shouted, It's not me, it's the commander. But you gave the order. The Azure Phoenix sword flew out of his hand and floated beside him. Qin Feiyang grabbed the young man in purple's neck with one hand, and his left arm with the other. With a little bit of force, the left arm was torn off. Ah! The young man in purple suddenly screamed. His face was distorted by the pain. This kind of forceful pulling was countless times more painful than a simple cut with a sword. That was a hellish torture. Not to mention, as the young city lord of Blackrock City, he was spoiled since childhood. How could he suffer such torture? Just as Qin Feiyang tore off his right arm, he fainted on the spot. But how could it be so simple? Qin Feiyang tore off his right leg, and the tearing pain woke him up again. Kill me, the young man in purple howled. This kind of feeling was worse than death. It was better to die. Before, when the villagers begged for mercy and even knelt on the ground to beg you, I didn't see you being merciful. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and tore off another leg. This time, all 4 limbs were gone, just like Li Feng at that time. Devil! Fu Wentai, Li Dashan, and the woman in black looked at this scene, their faces pale and their bodies trembling. Chapter 2372. Even the purple-clothed young man with a powerful family background was tortured so badly. What about them? They had no family background and no background. Wouldn't it be worse? Every scream of the purple-clothed young man was like a sharp knife stabbing into their hearts. Panic, despair, uneasiness. But the people of Yunshan village were very happy, especially Li Feng. Everyone had a vengeful heart. Not long ago, he was tortured by the black-haired old man. Now, seeing the purple-clothed young man in this state, he was very happy. His mentality was finally balanced. Comfortable. Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. My father won't let you go. I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. The purple-clothed young man roared silently. He couldn't scream anymore. His consciousness was already dissipating. He had never been tortured like this since he was a child. You are a perfect stage war god. Don't daydream all day. Qin Feiyang shook his head and waved his hand. The purple-clothed young man flew to the feet of Li Yuntai, and the others like a meteorite. Li Yuntai and the others looked at each other. Was he going to let them deal with him? At the same time, Qin Feiyang looked at Fu Wentai, Li Dashan, and the black-clothed woman. The 3 of them knelt in the void and begged for mercy. In my dictionary, there is a sentence that says you have to pay the price for doing wrong. Qin Feiyang said lightly. We have knelt down and admitted our mistakes. What else do you want? Don't push us too far. The three of them roared. But before they finished their words, 3 blood-red lights instantly entered their chi-si. Their chi-si was immediately shattered. The 3 of them were in extreme pain. What can you do if you push us too far? Now you don't even have a chance to self-destruct. Qin Feiyang said lightly. The 3 of them fell into the abyss of despair. Ah! Accompanied by shrill screams, Qin Feiyang also broke their limbs and threw them in front of Li Yuntai. Li Yuntai was stunned. Deal with them as you see fit. Their Qiankuan rings and divine weapons will also belong to Cloud Mountain Village. Qin Feiyang put away the blue phoenix sword and turned to look at Li Yuntai. Li Yuntai clenched his teeth and nodded. All right, I will take care of it. All right then. Remember my words. If anyone asks, don't mention me. After Qin Feiyang finished speaking, he took a step forward and rose into the air. Brother Gao, where are you going? Li He hurriedly shouted. Big Brother Gao, I want to be your disciple. You must accept me. Li Feng also knelt in the void and exclaimed. I'm just going out for a walk. I'll be back. As for becoming a disciple, find someone else. Qin Feiyang smiled without looking back. Soon he disappeared from the sight of the group of people. Li Feng was at a loss as he looked in the direction Qin Feiyang had disappeared. Will he really come back? Li Yuntai murmured, but a smile gradually appeared on his face. Regardless of whether he returned or not, he would never forget this person for the rest of his life. Immediately, Li Yuntai withdrew his gaze and looked down at Li Feng. He sighed. Feng, don't blame Uncle for his harsh words. You must know your place. Uncle. Li Feng's body stiffened. He looked up at Li Yuntai. This person must have a great background. He won't take a fancy to talents like you and Xiaohe. Get up quickly. Although he won't accept you, you still have to work hard and set him as your goal. Because you are the pillar of our village in the future. Li Yuntai smiled. I know. Li Feng took a deep breath, got up and nodded heavily to Li Yuntai. Li Yuntai smiled with relief. He turned to look at the villagers behind him and shouted. Everyone must also remember, regarding Gao Xiaosan, you must keep it a secret. Everyone nodded. In the sky above a barren ridge, Qin Feiyang closed his eyes and carefully sensed the location of the 3 Black Panthers. The slave seal could not only sense the location of the other party, but also transmit sound from 1,000 miles away. In short, no matter how far away they were, they could communicate with each other. Of course, the premise was that they were in the same area. For example, Qin Feiyang was in Shenzhou, and the 3 Black Panthers were in the northern region or Dongling. There was no other way. Very soon Qin Feiyang sensed the 3 Black Panthers, and immediately asked them to come and join him. Whoosh! About an hour later, accompanied by the sound of air being torn apart, the 3 Black Panthers arrived in front of Qin Feiyang like lightning. Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. How's the harvest these days? Nothing much. The 3 Black Panthers shook their heads. I see. Qin Feiyang could not help but feel disappointed. One of the Black Panthers waved its paw. 2 herbs and a divine jade appeared. The 2 herbs were a flower the size of a baby's palm, and a grass the size of an adult's palm. The flower had 3 petals. The grass also had 3 leaves. But no matter if it was the flowers or the grass, all of them were completely like flames that flowed with the glow of treasures, and they were filled with shocking intelligence. The most important thing was, their roots were still there, and they could be planted again. As for the divine jade, it was about the size of an adult's thumb and seemed to be made of magma. It was flawless and surrounded by flames. An earth flame flower, a heaven flame grass, a condensing divine jade. This is what we got these days. The 3 Black Panthers looked extremely dispirited. This person would definitely not be satisfied with these herbs. But on the contrary, Qin Feiyang was extremely excited when he saw the earth flame flower, heaven flame grass, and condensing divine jade. How could this be called nothing? One had to know. Whether it was the 3 herbs for the Nirvana divine pill, or the 4 herbs for the Chaos divine pill, they were all extremely precious. It was already a stroke of luck to be able to find 3 such herbs in just a few days. When he first heard the 3 Black Panthers say that they did not get anything, He thought that they did not even find one. It really scared him. Don't you blame us? The 3 Black Panthers looked at him suspiciously. You guys worked so hard to find the herbs for me. Why would I blame you? Qin Feiyang was stunned and found it funny. One of the Black Panthers said, but these 3, it's already very good. Qin Feiyang nodded. The 3 beasts heard and immediately heaved a sigh of relief. They were afraid that Qin Feiyang would blame them. It seemed that this person was quite easy to talk to. Qin Feiyang looked at it for a moment and sent the earth flame flower, heaven flame grass, and condensing divine jade to the ancient castle. He also instructed the fire lotus to immediately plant the earth flame flower and heaven flame grass in the medicinal field. These 2 herbs, a petal and a leaf, could already be refined into 1 elixir. In other words, a complete earth flame flower and heaven flame grass could be refined into 3 elixirs. And these herbs, after being planted, would sprout and grow new petals and leaves soon after being picked. Therefore, regarding this, the 3 Black Panthers should be praised. Because if they did not pull out the roots, they would not be able to plant. That. Since you are satisfied, then the legendary level divine artifact, do you think? The 3 Black Panthers rubbed their claws and looked at Qin Feiyang expectantly. Legendary level divine artifact? Qin Feiyang was stunned, his face immediately darkened, and said speechlessly, 3 herbs, and you want a legendary level divine artifact? Do you think that this level of divine artifact is like radishes and cabbages that can be found everywhere on the streets? The 3 beasts smiled embarrassedly. In fact, they had already expected that it would be impossible, so they were not too disappointed. Qin Feiyang laughed. Continue to help me find it. When I am satisfied, I will definitely give you a legendary level divine artifact. We are all serious. Don't go back on your word when the time comes. One of the Black Panthers said. Don't worry. I have a lot of legendary level divine artifact. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and a scarlet giant sickle, a white dagger, a dragon-shaped iron rod, and the azure phoenix sword appeared. The giant sickle belonged to the fire dragon. The dagger belonged to Sumo's sister. The dragon-shaped iron rod was called the coiling dragon rod. It belonged to Sumo. The azure phoenix sword belonged to Feng Zihan. What? There are actually 4 legendary level divine artifacts. The 3 beasts were dumbfounded. Is this a lot? Qin Feiyang laughed. The 3 beasts smiled bitterly. Even an ultimate god was not qualified to have a legendary level divine artifact, but now a lesser divine lord actually had 4 of them. Was this not a lot? Was this low-key? No. This person was showing off and showing off. A Black Panther asked carefully. If there are 4 legendary level divine artifacts, then wouldn't there be more peak level divine artifacts? Peak level divine artifacts? Qin Feiyang was stunned and shook his head. I really don't know how many there are, but I think there are at least 10 or 20. With a legendary level divine artifact, who would care about a peak level divine artifact? So, all these years he had directly thrown the peak level divine artifacts into his universe ring. If he looted the treasury, he would directly throw them to the fire lotus to organize. He didn't even want to look at them. Therefore, he really didn't know how many there were. Maybe a dozen or 20 pieces were too few. So many? The 3 beasts looked at each other. When they came back to their senses, they looked at Qin Feiyang in unison. Like 3 big wolf dogs, they stuck out their tongues and flattered him. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. After searching for a moment in the universe ring, he found 3 peak-level divine artifacts and threw them to the 3 beasts, saying, "Here you go." Thank you. The 3 beasts laughed. Although a peak-level divine artifact was not comparable to a legendary-level divine artifact, there were not many peak-level divine artifacts in the Black Rock City area. It could be said that a peak-level divine artifact was enough to cause a bloody storm here. And for Qin Feiyang, 3 peak-level divine artifacts could make these 3 Black Panthers help him find medicinal herbs wholeheartedly. It was an extremely cost-effective deal. Qin Feiyang asked, "Do you know the location of the Black Rock City?" "Of course. It's 4 teleportation altars away from us." The 3 beasts nodded. So far? Qin Feiyang was shocked. One had to know. From the land of the undead to the Sky Dragon City, There were only a dozen teleportation altars. In other words, just from Cloud Mountain Village to the Black Rock City, it was almost a third of the northern region. The Black Rock City area was only the tip of the iceberg of the Divine Land. Moreover, the Divine Land must have all kinds of incomparably large forbidden areas. It was really unimaginable how big this land was. Immortal War God, Immortal War God. Chapter 2373. Give me the coordinates. Qin Feiyang calmed himself down and looked at the three beasts with a smile. Are you going to Blackrock City? The three Black Panthers stared at him in surprise. Let's go for a walk. Qin Feiyang nodded. I'm afraid it's not as simple as a walk. The three Black Panthers cursed in their hearts. But they didn't ask much and gave Qin Feiyang 4 coordinates. I hope that the next time we meet, you can give me a bigger surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled slightly and activated the teleportation altar. Wait. Suddenly, one of the Black Panthers stopped Qin Feiyang. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang looked at it suspiciously. Through the last coordinate, you will appear above a canyon. There is a black wolf in the canyon. It's ferocious by nature and has a hobby of teasing you humans. But it has a good relationship with us. At that time, if it runs out and attacks you, please don't make things difficult for it. The Black Panther said. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and smiled. What if it makes things difficult for me? Just say that it has something to do with us. I want to hear this and it won't make things difficult for you. And it has lived near Blackrock City for tens of thousands of years and knows Blackrock City like the back of its hand. It will definitely be able to help you. The Black Panther said. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded, jumped onto the altar, and left. Boss, are we really going to continue to help him find herbs? One of the Black Panthers looked at the other two and asked. What else? Don't forget, he hasn't come into contact with our control. Found it. Maybe at that time he will really give us a legendary divine artifact. At that time, within a few million miles, who can be our opponent? The two Black Panthers laughed proudly. But we, as beasts, actually have to listen to the orders of a human. If word gets out, how can we establish ourselves in the beast world? The Black Panther said unhappily. How much is face worth? Don't be long-winded. Now that we all have pinnacle divine artifacts, the humans and beasts in this area are no longer a threat to us. For the sake of efficiency, let's split up and search. Finally, we will meet up in Blackrock City. The Black Panther boss said. All right. Big brother, third brother, take care of yourselves. I'll make a move first. After saying that, Black Panther took the pinnacle divine artifact and flew away in high spirits. Second brother, you're really impatient. Third brother Black Panther was displeased. Isn't it after the legendary artifact? Third brother. Don't say I didn't warn you. Even if he's willing to give us a legendary artifact, there's only one. When the time comes, whoever finds the most herbs among the three of us will get this legendary divine artifact. After saying that, the Black Panther turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the mountains below. You should have said so earlier. I won't lose to you. Third brother Black Panther roared and immediately rushed into the mountain below to search carefully. Blackrock City. Just as its name suggested, it was a city built from pieces of black stones. The city walls were black. The streets in the city were black. The buildings in the city were also black. It covered an area of tens of thousands of miles and had a population of tens of millions. It was an ancient city that had existed for countless years. Outside the city, the mountains were stacked and the ancient trees towered into the sky. The traces of fierce beasts could be seen everywhere. As for their cultivation, they were all war gods and divine lords. It was rare to see divine beasts. But it wasn't that there weren't any. Fierce beasts of this level were basically hiding in the depths of the mountains to cultivate. If you didn't disturb it, it would never take the initiative to provoke you. At this moment, just north of Blackrock City, in a large canyon, a man and a woman, about 20 years old, exuded an extraordinary temperament. They each held a supreme-grade divine artifact in their hands, and were fighting a black wolf with their lives on the line. Both of their cultivations were half-step divine lords. But the Black Wolf's cultivation had reached perfect divine lord. Moreover, it also had a supreme-grade divine artifact. There was no suspense. Facing such a powerful Black Wolf, both of them were covered in wounds and looked extremely miserable. Damn beast, we didn't provoke you. We were just passing by. Why did you attack us? The young woman roared angrily. Passing by? Do you think I'm stupid? Don't you know the real purpose of coming here? The Black Wolf snickered. It was simply toying with the two of them. Otherwise, with its perfect divine lord cultivation and supreme-grade divine artifact, it would have ended their lives long ago. Swoosh. But at this moment, a figure descended in the sky above the canyon. It was a young man with dark skin. He wore a black robe, and his eyes emitted a cold light. The Black Wolf and the man and woman stopped at the same time, and looked at the black-robed young man. Brother, help us. The man and woman immediately called for help from the young man. They realized that they couldn't see through the black-robed young man's cultivation, which meant that he was stronger than them. But the Black Wolf flashed a look of disdain. Ask him for help? Are you stupid? Don't you know that his cultivation is only a small success, divine lord? The Black Wolf looked at the man and woman, his fierce eyes filled with mockery. What? Only a small success, divine lord? The man and woman were extremely disappointed. Boy, since you delivered yourself to me, I won't be polite. Stay there and don't move. After I kill them, I'll deal with you slowly. The Black Wolf stared at the black-robed young man and snickered. Then it opened its bloody mouth and pounced at the man and woman. The black-robed young man was stunned. He didn't seem to have provoked this Black Wolf before. The black-robed young man waved his hand and said, Hey, stop. Answer me a question. The Black Wolf was slightly taken aback. It turned to stare at Qin Feiyang, its eyes flashing fiercely. The man and woman also looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Facing the perfect divine lord Black Wolf, he wasn't nervous at all. Do any of you have the coordinates of the Black Rock City Lord Mansion? The black-robed young man looked at the Black Wolf and the man and woman and asked with a smile. We know the location of the City Lord Mansion. As long as you save us, we'll bring you there. The man and woman hurriedly said. What about you? The black-robed young man looked at the Black Wolf and asked. It definitely doesn't know. Because beasts can't enter the Black Rock City. The man and woman said again. I see. The black-robed young man nodded in realization. He revealed a smile that he thought was very kind. He looked at the Black Wolf and said with a smile, On account of your friend, I won't kill you. Hurry up and leave. That was right. This person was Qin Feiyang. As for the Black Wolf, it must be the friend of the 3 black leopards. You won't kill me? The Black Wolf looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Was this person sick in the head? A mere small success divine lord dared to boast shamelessly in front of a perfect divine lord? If you don't leave, I'll be angry. The consequences of my anger are very serious. Qin Feiyang said. Haha. When the Black Wolf heard this, it immediately laughed out loud. This person was definitely sick, and very sick at that. Otherwise, how could he say such a stupid thing? Wait. But suddenly, the Black Wolf's expression froze. It seemed to have ignored a sentence. It looked at Qin Feiyang and said suspiciously, Just now you said that on account of my friend, you won't kill me. What kind of friend do I have? The 3 black leopard brothers of the 7 Birds Mountain. Qin Feiyang said. So it's them. The Black Wolf suddenly realized. But immediately after, there was a touch of disbelief in its eyes. It knew the character of the 3 black leopard brothers too well. How could they become friends with humans? Could it be? This person had already killed the 3 black leopard brothers, and then pretended to be a friend of the 3 black leopard brothers to deceive it? With this thought, the Black Wolf's eyes suddenly flashed with a fierce light. Despicable human. I will kill you to avenge them. Accompanied by a roar, the Black Wolf immediately awakened the supreme-grade divine artifact and charged toward Qin Feiyang. That supreme-grade divine artifact was a black iron fork, glowing with a black light. Despicable? Revenge? Qin Feiyang was startled and hurriedly dodged, frowning. What are you doing? He can actually dodge it. A man and a woman were unbelievable. The black wolf was also surprised and said, "So you have some ability, no wonder you can kill the 3 black leopard brothers." Kill the 3 black leopard brothers? Qin Feiyang was slightly startled and said with a wry smile, "It's a misunderstanding, I didn't kill them, on the contrary, I'm friends with them." What a joke! With this emperor's understanding of them, how could they be friends with humans? You dare to do it, but you don't dare to admit it. The black wolf ridiculed, its body expanding with the wind, instantly becoming more than 100 feet tall, baring its teeth, ferocious aura surging. Aoo! Following closely, it let out a wolf howl, opened its bloody mouth, and pounced towards Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. He never thought that there would be such a misunderstanding. It seemed that he had to calm this guy down first. Clang! The coiling dragon rod appeared. He gripped the coiling dragon staff and swung it down. Aoo! The black wolf immediately let out a wail, its head bleeding, and like a meteorite, it smashed into the canyon below, never to get up again. So strong! The man and the woman were dumbstruck. To be able to heavily injure the black wolf with a single strike, what kind of holy artifact was that iron rod? Immediately, a hint of greed appeared in the depths of their eyes. Quick! Kill it! Seeing the black wolf lying on the ground with serious injuries, the young man's face immediately surged with killing intent. And then he brought out his top-quality holy artifact and charged towards the black wolf. Hearing this, the young woman also immediately charged over. "While you're sick, I'll take your life." Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and shouted, "What are you doing?" "Brother, wolves are the most vengeful creatures. If we don't take the opportunity to kill it now, we will definitely suffer its revenge in the future." The man and woman did not stop, their killing intent soaring. Shua! Qin Feiyang teleported and stood above the black wolf, frowning. "It was me who heavily injured it, I didn't say anything. What qualifications do you have to attack?" The man and woman froze in the air, somewhat angry out of humiliation. How could he help a beast? Sure enough, as the black wolf said, this person was crazy. Qin Feiyang said indifferently, "Quit while you're ahead." Hearing this, the man and woman glanced at the coiling dragon rod in Qin Feiyang's hand, a trace of fear in their eyes. The young man said coldly, "Fine, don't regret it, let's go. Your kindness now will make you pay a heavy price in the future." The young woman also snorted coldly. Then the two of them left without looking back, not even a word of thanks. After all, if it weren't for Qin Feiyang, they would definitely have died under the black wolf's claws today. Chapter 2374. Qin Feiyang retracted his gaze and looked down at He Lang, saying, "Can you listen to me properly now?" He Lang used all his strength and staggered to his feet. Blood flowed from his head. With this strike, not only was his head broken and bleeding, even his soul was severely injured. As for his sea of consciousness, it had already been shattered. Otherwise, with his cultivation, it was impossible that he didn't even have the strength to stand up. Qin Feiyang took out a sea of consciousness pill and a soul pill, and threw them to He Lang. He Lang grabbed them, looked at them, and threw them into his mouth. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, "You really didn't kill them?" "Nonsense. Not only did I not kill them, but I also gave each of them a peak-level divine artifact," Qin Feiyang said. "Humans are so generous? Besides, are peak-level divine artifacts cabbages? One for each of them, bragging without a draft." He Lang was disdainful. Qin Feiyang was both amused and helpless. He swung the coiling dragon rod. "What are you doing?" He Lang immediately jumped up. Qin Feiyang said, "I'm too lazy to explain to you, I'll just kill you." Don't. Let's talk nicely," He Lang hurriedly exclaimed. Qin Feiyang said, "Do you believe me now?" Yes. He Lang nodded repeatedly. "So reluctant?" Qin Feiyang frowned. He Lang said repeatedly, Not reluctant, I really believe you." Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He put away the coiling dragon rod and said, "Actually, if you think about it seriously, you should be able to think that if I really killed the 3 black leopard brothers, would I let you go now? Seems like it." He Lang pondered for a while and nodded. Qin Feiyang asked, "The 3 Black Leopard brothers told me that you know Blackrock City like the back of your hand?" "Yes." "Why?" He Lang looked at him suspiciously. "What about the City Lord's mansion?" Qin Feiyang said. "The City Lord's mansion?" He Lang's pupils immediately constricted, and there was an unresolvable fear in his heart. Qin Feiyang asked, "You know the City Lord's mansion?" Who doesn't know about the City Lord mansion? However, this City Lord's mansion is truly a dragon's lair and tiger's den. "Why are you asking about this?" He Lang was bewildered. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "All right, take me to the City Lord's mansion now." "What?" He Lang's eyes widened as he looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Following closely, its body quickly shrunk to about a meter long. Then, it waved its claws again, and the supreme grade trident turned into a stream of light and disappeared into its body. Immediately, it seemed to have discovered something. It suddenly stared behind Qin Feiyang and exclaimed, "Look, what's that?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and immediately turned to look. However, he saw nothing in the void behind him. Just as Qin Feiyang turned his head, He Lang laughed sinisterly and rushed towards the depths of the canyon without looking back. Was he fooled? Qin Feiyang turned around and stared blankly at He Lang, who had disappeared from his line of sight. He was quite crafty. However, want to slip away from under his nose? Was that possible? To the City Lord's mansion? You must be crazy. Not to mention that you're just a friend of the 3 Black Panther brothers. Even if you're their father, I won't accompany you to your death. He Lang turned around and saw that Qin Feiyang did not chase after him, so he started cursing loudly. "No. This place has been exposed. We can't stay here any longer. Move immediately." After rushing all the way to the deepest part of the canyon, He Lang stopped in front of a small mound. The small mound was about 2 meters tall and overgrown with weeds. At the top of the small mound, there was a pure white lotus. It was about the size of a baby's fist and had a total of 9 leaves. Each leaf seemed to be carved out of precious jade, like a snow lotus, suffused with a hazy divine light. Looking at the lotus, He Lang's eyes lit up. 9th grade immortal lotus! An exclamation suddenly sounded behind He Lang. The black wolf immediately quivered and turned its head to look. It saw that Qin Feiyang was actually standing behind it at an unknown time. "You!" He Lang was about to speak, but when he saw Qin Feiyang's fiery gaze, he immediately pounced on the 9th grade immortal lotus. "Don't hurt its roots." Qin Feiyang's expression changed, and he immediately shouted. He never thought that there would be a 9th grade immortal lotus here. "The 9th grade immortal lotus is mine. What does it have to do with you?" He Lang pulled out the 9th grade immortal lotus with one claw and stared at Qin Feiyang, as if guarding against a thief. Qin Feiyang heaved a sigh of relief. Although He Lang's actions were a bit rough, he did not hurt the 9th grade immortal lotus's leaves and roots. In other words, it could be replanted. Every leaf of the 9th grade immortal lotus could be refined into a pill. So even if he lost a piece, his heart would ache. "Let's talk nicely. As long as you give me this 9th grade immortal lotus, and take me to the City Lord's mansion, I will give you a good fortune." Qin Feiyang tried his best to speak in a calm tone as he looked at He Lang and smiled. "Good fortune?" He Lang was stunned, his eyes rolled and said, "If you can give me a pinnacle-level divine weapon, I will give you the 9th grade immortal lotus. As for going to the City Lord's mansion, that's another story." "So cheap?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. No matter what others thought, he felt that exchanging a pinnacle-level divine weapon for a 9th grade immortal lotus was a good deal. However, if he agreed so easily, He Lang might increase the price at the last minute. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, and said in a deep voice, "Don't ask for too much. Go to the Black Rock City and see how many people have pinnacle-level divine weapons. I don't care. In short, if you don't have a pinnacle-level divine weapon, let's talk face to face. Of course, if you are willing to give me your legendary-level divine weapon, I will not only give you the 9th grade immortal lotus, but also take you to the City Lord's mansion." He Lang chuckled. "In your dreams. I only have one legendary-level divine weapon. If I give it to you, what will I use?" Qin Feiyang snorted coldly, looking very troubled. So, I only want a pinnacle-level divine weapon. Isn't that very reasonable? Hei Lang said narcissistically. Yes, yes, yes. I have never seen such an understanding wolf like you. Qin Feiyang was speechless. Then what are you hesitating for? Hei Lang said. All right. I'll give it to you. Qin Feiyang nodded reluctantly. Whoosh. However, at this moment, a sharp sound of breaking through the air was heard. A fatal crisis immediately engulfed his heart. Qin Feiyang grabbed Hei Lang without hesitation and rushed to the side. Boom. As soon as he left, a black arrow pierced through the air like lightning and blasted into the small mound. With a loud bang, the small mound was of course shattered. The mountain peaks on all sides of the canyon also instantly collapsed. How dare you sneak attack me? Hei Lang was furious. No. He should be trying to kill me. Qin Feiyang shook his head. A man in a wolf soared into the sky, glancing gloomily at the devastated canyon, and then looked up at the void in front of them. But as far as their eyes could see, there was no one. No one. Hei Lang raised his eyebrows. Over there. Qin Feiyang pointed to a giant mountain not far away. At the top of the mountain, a middle-aged man stood impressively. His body was thin, and he wore a black robe. His pair of eyes were a bit long and narrow, like a poisonous snake, emitting a trace of cold light. And in his hand, he held a jet-black divine bow that emitted a faint light. Behind the black-robed man, there was a young man and a young woman. It was the man and woman from before. So it's them. I knew they weren't just passing by. They must have rushed to the 9th grade Immortal Lotus. Hei Lang's eyes flashed fiercely. Qin Feiyang stared at the three of them with a flash of ridicule in his eyes. He smiled at Hei Lang and said, Then you should thank me. Thank you? Hei Lang was stunned and sneered. Are you stupid? Why should I thank you? That middle-aged man should have been hiding in the dark, looking for a chance to kill you in one shot. In other words, that man and woman were just bait to confuse you. If I didn't appear just now with your carelessness, do you think you could have escaped the middle-aged man's sneak attack? Qin Feiyang said. Who said so? Don't look down on me. Carelessness is only on the surface. In fact, I have been secretly vigilant. Sneak attack me? It's not that I look down on them, but I wouldn't be afraid even if there were 10 of them. Hei Lang's face was full of disdain, but in his heart, he was indeed a little grateful to Qin Feiyang. Because no matter how confident he was, he didn't dare to say that he couldn't block the sneak attack of a pinnacle divine artifact. Are you sure you're not afraid? Qin Feiyang said. Of course I'm sure. Hei Lang said proudly. Okay then, go and take care of them. That middle-aged man isn't very strong. He's just a perfected divine lord. As for the divine bow in his hand, it's only a pinnacle divine artifact. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. A pinnacle divine artifact. Hei Lang's pupils shrank as he looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Since you're the brother of the 3 black leopard brothers, then you're also my brother. It's too strange to talk about this between brothers. The speed at which he changed his attitude was faster than flipping a book. Qin Feiyang's face twitched and said, Not brothers, just friends. Hei Lang said, Good friends, isn't that equivalent to brothers? Qin Feiyang said, Since we're brothers, then this 9th grade Immortal Lotus and the City Lord Mansion? Isn't it just a 9th grade Immortal Lotus? What's the harm in giving it to you? As for the City Lord Mansion, for my brother, I'll be willing to sacrifice my life. Hei Lang didn't blush and roared righteously. Shameless. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched fiercely. This guy was even worse than the white-eyed wolf. At the same time, the middle-aged man in black also stared at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Originally, he was full of confidence that he could kill Qin Feiyang in one shot. But he didn't expect that the other party's reaction was so fast that he actually dodged his fatal arrow. Brother Yunqing, you must kill him and snatch the legendary divine artifact. That's right. As long as we get this legendary divine artifact, then in the Black Rock City, except for the City Lord Mansion, no one is a match for our Wu family, the young man and woman urged. Don't worry. Not only the legendary divine artifact, but also the 9th grade Immortal Lotus. Today it will be ours. The man in black smiled coldly. Since he had been discovered, there was naturally no need to hide anymore. He took a step forward and landed in front of Qin Feiyang and He Lang. The young man and woman followed closely behind the man in black, staring at Qin Feiyang with cold smiles on their faces. Qin Feiyang sighed and said, "Is this how you repay your savior? We didn't ask you to save us. You were the one who wanted to meddle in our business, and you want us to repay you? Are you an idiot?" The two of them sneered mercilessly. Chapter 2375. For a moment, Qin Feiyang was speechless. He had seen a lot of ungrateful people, but after being ungrateful, he could still insult his benefactor so confidently. This was the first time he had seen someone like that. This shouldn't be considered a human, right? Because even a dog knew how to repay a favor. If you know what's good for you, hand over the legendary level artifact immediately. I can consider leaving you an intact corpse. The black-clothed man looked at Qin Feiyang and said. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but laugh, looked at the black-clothed man, and asked, "You are from the same family?" The black-clothed man nodded. Black Rock City. Qin Feiyang asked again. Black Rock City Wu family. The black-clothed man said proudly. "Don't be so proud. I don't know how strong the Wu family is, but one thing I can see is that your Wu family is not very united." Qin Feiyang laughed. "Don't talk nonsense. You don't even know the situation of my Wu family. How do you know that we are not united?" The black-clothed man said angrily. "It's very simple." Qin Feiyang pointed at the man and woman and said with a smile, "I judged it from their actions." The black-clothed man frowned. The man and woman also looked at Qin Feiyang in confusion. "If I'm not wrong, you didn't tell your clansmen that there was a 9th-grade immortal lotus here. You wanted to take it for yourself. But when you sneaked into the canyon, before you could do anything, you were discovered by Black Wolf. You were very desperate. Because Black Wolf was too strong. But coincidentally, I appeared here, so you asked me for help. Maybe at that time, you were indeed grateful to me in your hearts. But when you saw that I had a legendary level artifact, this gratitude directly turned into greed. What happened next, you don't need to think to know. You weren't willing to give up just like that, so you pretended to leave and sent a message to this person, asking him to come and help. Although this way, you will no longer be able to obtain the 9th-tier immortal lotus, nor will you be able to obtain the legendary artifact in my hands. As long as you succeed, you will have done a great service to the Wu clan. In any case, no matter what the final result is, you will not suffer any losses. Am I right?" Qin Feiyang looked at the man and woman and smiled. "Are you following us?" When the man and woman heard this, their faces became extremely gloomy. "Following you?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Do you think I'm in the mood? I don't believe it. No matter how smart a person is, it's impossible to guess everything. Who are you? Why are you following us?" The two of them were furious. It wasn't their fault. Anyone else would have done the same. "Wait. Why is it different from what you told me just now?" He Lang looked at Qin Feiyang and frowned. "What's the difference?" Qin Feiyang was startled. He Lang pointed at the man in black and said, "Didn't you just say that he's been hiding nearby, waiting to ambush me with a fatal blow?" Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "I'm lying, don't you know?" "You bastard." He Lang snapped. To think that it was actually a little grateful before. It did not expect him to be tricking it. Humans were indeed not good. "You're the stupid one. If he was really there, do you think he would hide in the dark and ambush you with the peak-level artifact in his hand? He would have jumped out long ago to steal the 9th-tier immortal lotus and kill you 1,000 times over." Qin Feiyang twisted his lips. "Bastard, shameless, scum." He Lang kept cursing. Qin Feiyang smiled helplessly. He looked at the man in black and said calmly, "Are you still going to deny what I said?" The man in black's face darkened. He turned to the man and the woman and said, "Didn't you say that you just found the 9th-tier immortal lotus?" "Brother Yunqing, don't listen to his nonsense. We really just found it." Yes. After we found it, we immediately sent a message. After being together for so long, You still don't know who we are? How could we keep the 9th-tier immortal lotus to ourselves? The two of them quickly defended themselves. The man in black glanced at the two of them and turned to Qin Feiyang and said, "Thank you for your reminder. I'll ask the patriarch to pay attention to this in the future." Obviously, he already believed Qin Feiyang's words. No need. I'm just not used to this kind of petty person who thinks he's very smart. Qin Feiyang smiled calmly. The man and woman were extremely flustered. Who exactly was this person? If he really did not follow them, then his mind was too scary. It was as if he saw it with his own eyes. When we return to the clan, they will pay the price for the mistakes they made today. But you, don't think that I'll let you go just because of this. Hand over the legendary artifact and the 9th-tier immortal lotus immediately. You should know that even if you have the legendary artifact, you are not my opponent, because my cultivation is much higher than yours. The man in black said. Confidence is a good thing, but overconfidence is conceit. To be honest. To deal with you, I don't need to do it myself. Qin Feiyang chuckled, took out the coiling dragon rod and threw it to He Lang, saying, "Take it." This. He Lang grabbed the coiling dragon rod and looked at Qin Feiyang in a daze. He actually gave it to it. The man in black was also dumbfounded. A legendary divine artifact was thrown to a ferocious beast as if it was nothing but dirt. All of a sudden, the man in black looked at the man and woman and asked, "Didn't you say that they don't know each other?" They don't know each other. Not long ago, he gave He Lang a hit and almost killed it. The two of them were also dumbfounded. If they don't know each other, would he be at ease to give the legendary artifact to that wolf cub? Do you think I'm stupid? The man in black said angrily. They really don't know each other. We're not lying to you. The two of them were burning with anxiety. The man in black's face was gloomy. The coiling dragon rod in Qin Feiyang's hands, and in He Lang's hands were two different concepts. If the coiling dragon rod was in Qin Feiyang's hands, then he was confident that he could defeat Qin Feiyang with the pinnacle artifact in his hands, because his cultivation was 3 small realms higher than Qin Feiyang. But the coiling dragon rod in He Lang's hands became different, because He Lang was also a perfected divine lord. Naturally, the difference in their cultivation levels would disappear. Now he was at a disadvantage, because the coiling dragon rod was 1 level higher than the divine bow in his hands. In short, Qin Feiyang just threw it casually and the situation was reversed. Go. Suddenly, the black-robed man roared and swept up the man and woman. Then he flew away without looking back. In this situation, was there still a need to fight? If he didn't want to die, he had to escape. Qin Feiyang glanced at He Lang, who was still in a daze, and said, "Why aren't you chasing?" Okay. Only then did He Lang react, hurriedly nodded, and charged towards the 3 of them with the coiling dragon rod. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly, activated the concealment art, called him the Xing word art, and followed behind He Lang unhurriedly. Haha. With a pinnacle artifact, what are you running for? Come. If you have the guts, fight with this emperor for 300 rounds. He Lang laughed wildly. With a rod in hand, I have the world. The man in black's face was full of panic. He stared at the man and woman and said in a deep voice, "When we go back, I'll slowly settle the score with you." Heard it? The man and woman trembled. If they really returned to the clan and let the patriarch know about this, would there be a good ending? Suddenly, the two of them looked at each other, and a dense killing intent appeared in their eyes at the same time. Following closely, both of them took out a dagger, and while the man in black was not paying attention, they directly stabbed into the man in black's back. The man in black's chi was shattered on the spot. What? The man in black was in disbelief. He actually sneak attacked him? Sorry. You asked for it. If you didn't tell the patriarch, we wouldn't have made this decision. The two of them sneered. He snatched the divine bow from the man in black's hands. You're courting death. The man in black was furious, and his divine sense rolled out. The man and woman seemed to have expected this and immediately retreated. He Lang and Qin Feiyang, who were invisible in the void, were also a little stunned when they saw this dramatic scene. Who would have thought that the 3 of them would kill each other? Lord Heilang, this pinnacle artifact is for you. The man and woman did not escape. They ran in front of Heilang and respectfully handed the divine bow to Heilang. Because they knew, with their cultivation and speed, it was impossible for them to escape from Heilang. So, instead of making a futile struggle, they might as well be straightforward and give the divine bow to Heilang. Heilang might be happy and let them go. Heilang looked at the two of them, and then looked at the divine bow. He instinctively took it, still in a state of confusion. Lord Heilang, we helped you solve such a big problem, and even helped you get a pinnacle artifact. Can you make up for our mistakes and let us go? The two of them smiled flatteringly. Let you go. Heilang was slightly stunned. He finally recovered and lowered his head to look at the two of them. The two of them had a fawning look on their faces. Heilang looked at the man in black again. Although his chi was destroyed, the man in black did not sit still and wait for death. He controlled his body with his divine sense and desperately fled. Heilang grinned and rushed forward like lightning, swinging the coiling dragon rod and smashing it. No, the man in black roared. But not only did Heilang not show mercy, his fierce eyes were filled with a bloodthirsty light. Bang! The coiling dragon rod fell. The man in black's head suddenly exploded. His divine soul was also annihilated on the spot. Looking at this scene, the man and woman panicked to the extreme. How dare you snatch my things? You really don't know what's good for you. Heilang smiled disdainfully and plundered the man in black's universe ring. Then he took the coiling dragon rod and the divine bow and walked toward the man and woman step by step. Don't kill us. We really know that we were wrong. Please, I beg you, let us live. The two of them were so scared that they knelt down in front of a wolf and kowtowed repeatedly. Humans are indeed all cowardly trash. Heilang's face was full of contempt. Its eyes rolled around as if thinking about how to torture the two of them. But suddenly, a figure appeared in its mind. What about the human? It hurriedly scanned the void, looking for Qin Feiyang's trace. No one. Did he not follow? Was he still in the depths of the canyon? Immediately. Heilang laughed evilly. He didn't follow, right? Then I won't be polite. It looked greedily at the coiling dragon rod and the divine bow. A peak-level divine artifact, a legendary divine artifact, and the 9th grade immortal lotus were still in its hands. This time it had really made a big profit. Originally, it still wanted to torture the two of them, but now it was not in the mood. For this legendary divine artifact, it naturally had to escape quickly. Roar. It let out a roar and returned to its original form. It opened its bloody mouth and savagely swallowed the man and woman. Then, it happily took the two divine artifacts and disappeared into the mountains below without looking back. Chapter 2376. Not long after Heilang left, 5 or 6 middle-aged men and women dressed as hunters quickly flew over. They were hunting nearby. Just a while ago, they heard that there was a battle here, so they came over to take a look out of curiosity. The battle is over? There seems to be the aura of a beast. Look, there's a headless corpse. Someone pointed below and exclaimed. The others immediately looked down, and their faces turned pale. This headless corpse was naturally the man in black. So miserable. It's obvious that his head was smashed into pieces by something. But who is he? Without a head, it's hard to tell. The few of them surrounded the corpse, their eyes full of suspicion. Who cares who he is? Let's see if there are any treasures on him. One of the slightly plump middle-aged men suddenly grinned and squatted on the ground to search the corpse, making a fortune from the dead. However, Heilang had already plundered everything. Why would it be his turn? Very soon, there was a trace of disappointment on this person's face. But then, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he took out a token from the man in black's clothes. This is... The others surrounded him and looked at the token curiously. The token was black. There was a word Wu engraved on it. Isn't this the Wu family's token? Could he be from the Wu family? Wait. Don't you think that this person's figure is a little familiar? After hearing what you said, it is indeed a little familiar. Look. There's a scar on his left shoulder. I've seen this scar before. I already know who he is, the younger brother of the Wu family head. Who is so bold to kill him? And he is a perfected Sir God. After guessing the identity of the man in black, the few of them were shocked. Quick! Send him to the Wu family. We will definitely get a reward. The few of them carried the man in black's body and flew toward Black Rock City. At the same time, Black Rock City, east side. In a dense forest, a 1-meter-long black wolf scanned the surroundings sneakily. It should be safe here. A moment later, Heilang chuckled and ran to a rock. He placed the 9th-rank Immortal Lotus, the Coiling Dragon Staff, the Divine Bow, and an interspatial ring neatly on the rock. Legendary Divine Artifact. Pinnacle Divine Artifact. And this interspatial ring, I wonder how many treasures there are in it. Looking at these things, Black Wolf's eyes glowed green. Following closely, it grabbed the Cosmos ring, dripped blood on it, and claimed ownership of it. Then it checked the treasures inside. So many soul stones, so many divine crystals, so many pills. Immediately, its body shook, and its face bloomed with joy. Brother Black Panther, don't blame me for not upholding justice. I don't want to scam your friend either. It's just that his legendary divine artifact is too tempting. Heilang put down the interspatial ring, grabbed the coiling dragon rod, and rubbed it lovingly. He also found a dignified excuse for himself. However, it did not know that Qin Feiyang was standing right in front of it. Looking at the big black wolf's face at this moment, Qin Feiyang's face darkened. His veins bulged, and he wanted to kick it. This guy's conduct was indeed comparable to that of a white-eyed wolf. What should I do next? Have fun? Show off to those old guys? Or take a nap first? People are in high spirits when they're in a good mood. This life is really wonderful. No. It should be a wolf. A wolf is in high spirits when it's in a good mood. A wolf's life is so wonderful. Heilang couldn't stop laughing. Qin Feiyang couldn't stand it anymore. He snatched the coiling dragon rod from Black Wolf's claws. Black Wolf was stunned. It immediately looked around, and its fierce eyes were full of anger. Who was it? How dare he snatch the food from the wolf's mouth? But then, the interspatial ring, the divine bow, and the 9th-grade immortal lotus disappeared without a trace in an instant. Bastard! Come out and die for me. Black Wolf was furious. His immortal will appeared like a tide, covering the sky and the earth in all directions. Aren't you looking down on me too much? Qin Feiyang appeared, and his eyes flashed coldly. You, Black Wolf's fierce eyes widened in shock. When did this person catch up with him? How dare you take my things? Do you want to die? Qin Feiyang raised the coiling dragon rod and smashed it at Black Wolf. Brother! Black Wolf immediately fell to the ground. Qin Feiyang was startled. Brother, I didn't mean to. I just saw that you were missing, so I kept it for you for the time being. Brother, heaven and earth are witnesses. I didn't mean to take the coiling dragon rod for myself. Look at how kind and cute I am. Do you have the heart to hurt me? Heilang cried out tearfully. Qin Feiyang's face kept twitching. This bastard really had a talent for being an actor. Brother. We're friends, brothers. Think about it. How can a loyal wolf like me covet my brother's divine artifact? I'm really keeping it for you. If you don't believe me, I swear in the name of the 3 black leopard brothers. If there's half a lie, they will be struck by lightning. Heilang roared righteously. What the hell? Qin Feiyang looked at Black Wolf with a dumbfounded face. He finally saw what true shamelessness was. He swore in the name of the 3 black leopard brothers? If the 3 black leopard brothers knew about this, what would they think? They would probably sigh that they had made careless friends. Huff. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath, put away the coiling dragon rod and said with a dark face, Let's go to the City Lord Mansion. Isn't it just the City Lord Mansion? What a small matter. I'll take you there right away. But brother, the City Lord Mansion is full of experts. You have to give me something to protect myself. Black Wolf licked his face and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. Qin Feiyang clenched his fists and ruthlessly kicked the Black Wolf. The Black Wolf immediately howled and flew out. Black Rock City. At this moment, it was already in an uproar. Did you hear? The younger brother of the Wu family had died tragically outside the city. No way. The Wu family is so powerful and he himself is very strong. Who would dare to kill him? I don't know. I saw his body when I found him. The Black Rock City is going to be lively. That's right. The Wu family will definitely not let the matter rest after losing a perfect Sir God. The streets and alleys of the Black Rock City were filled with such discussions. In the middle of the Black Rock City, there was a huge mansion that took up almost 1/10 of the Black Rock City. This was the City Lord Mansion. Grand, imposing, dignified. On all sides of the mansion, there was a guard every 3 steps and a guard every 7 steps. Even a fly could not fly in. The guards had at least the cultivation of a great Sir God. And they were all equipped with superior-grade divine weapons and superior-grade divine armors. Deep in the mansion, in a large hall, a middle-aged man in a brocade robe sat on a throne. His eyebrows were like swords, and he was imposing without being angry. Below him, a guard in black armor stood respectfully and reported the death of the younger brother of the Wu family head. The guard in black armor also had the cultivation of a perfect Sir God. Around the hall, there were 20 guards in black armor. They were also perfect Sir Gods. Moreover, the weapons and armors they wore far surpassed those of the guards outside. They were all supreme-grade divine weapons. And they were the city lord's personal guards. After a while, the guard standing in the middle of the hall looked respectfully at the man in the brocade robe and said, "My lord, this is what happened." When the city lord heard this, he shook his head and smiled. "I really did not expect that someone would dare to touch the younger brother of the Wu family head." "My lord, do you need me to bring people to investigate this matter?" the guard asked. "No need." The city lord waved his hand. "My lord, I know that you don't care about the Wu family. However, this incident happened within the jurisdiction of our Blackrock City. If the City Lord Mansion does not do anything, I'm afraid that we will be criticized," the guard said. The City Lord nodded. "That makes sense. All right, take some time to bring people to the Wu family to take a look. It's also a formality." "Understood." The guard replied respectfully. The City Lord asked, "Has Yena returned?" "No." The guard shook his head. "It's been so long, but he hasn't returned. Could something have happened?" The City Lord asked worriedly. "My lord, you're overthinking it. How can a small village threaten the young City Lord? Besides, isn't there still the commander? The commander is a half-step supreme god. It's easy for him to deal with a small village." The guard smiled. "That's true." The City Lord nodded and smiled. "You should also start preparing for the Dragon God Palace." "The Dragon God Palace?" The guard was stunned for a moment, then he slapped his head and smiled. "Look at my memory. There are only 2 years left for the once-in-a-century event." The City Lord smiled and waved his hand. "Then quickly go and arrange it." "Yes," the guard replied respectfully. Boom. Just as the guard was about to turn and leave, 2 powerful auras suddenly descended from the sky above the City Lord Mansion. One was the aura of a human. The other was the aura of a beast. Not only did they not hide it at all, but they also carried a shocking murderous intent. The City Lord raised his eyebrows. The guard's eyes were also filled with coldness. How dare they brazenly barge into the City Lord's mansion without prior notice or permission? They must be tired of living. The guard was about to rush out. Whoosh. But at this moment, a man and a wolf suddenly descended outside the gate. "Who is it? How dare you barge into the City Lord Mansion? You're courting death." The 20 or so black-armored guards guarding the hall immediately waved their spears and surrounded the man and wolf. The City Lord and the guard in the hall also stared at the man and wolf coldly. It was a dark-skinned young man dressed in black. His cultivation was not strong, only a low-level divine lord. However, facing a group of perfected divine lord black-armored guards, he was not afraid at all. He was calm and composed. The wolf next to him was a black wolf. It stood on the ground and looked very lively, but there was a big bump on its head. It looked quite funny. Chapter 2377. That's right. The man and the wolf were Qin Feiyang and Heilang. The big meat bun on Hei Lang's head was naturally beaten up by Qin Feiyang. This guy was so shameless that people would feel uncomfortable if they didn't beat him up. More than 20 bodyguards were ferocious. However, Qin Feiyang directly ignored him and stepped into the palace hall. Seeing this, Hei Lang shrank his neck and hurriedly followed in. A group of guards also rushed into the hall and surrounded Qin Feiyang and Hei Lang. So many perfect divine lords. This is like a sheep in a tiger's mouth. Hei Lang stood next to Qin Feiyang valiantly, but he was extremely flustered. However, Qin Feiyang's expression didn't change. It was as if he had returned to his own home, looking here and there. Who are you? What's your purpose of breaking into my city lord's mansion? The city lord stared at Qin Feiyang gloomily and shouted. The decoration is gorgeous and imposing. It suits the identity of a city lord. Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and commented on the layout in the hall. The city lord frowned. Where did this guy come from? A group of black-armored guards also looked at him with disdain. He was simply a country bumpkin who had never seen the world. But, on the other hand, it also reflects that you are not a good city lord. Because generally, responsible people will not do this kind of superficial work. In the years when you took office, you must have used the power in your hands to extort a lot of people's money. Qin Feiyang looked up at the city lord and smiled. How dare you? The city lord was furious and shouted to a group of black-armored guards, "Take them down." No one had ever dared to enter the city lord's mansion without notifying in advance, not to mention breaking in. But now, not only did this person break in, but he also mocked him in front of his face. Did he think that the city lord was a decoration? Following the order, a group of black-armored guards immediately rushed towards Qin Feiyang and Hei Lang with bared fangs and brandished claws. It has nothing to do with me. He was the one who wanted to come. I was forced by him. Big brother city lord. No, 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 city lord. The heavens are benevolent. If you want to find trouble, go find him. Don't find me. Black Wolf was immediately stunned. What a joke. Over 20 perfect grade war gods. All equipped with supreme grade divine weapons and divine armors. Wouldn't they be able to kill him in a matter of minutes? A wise man submits to circumstances. It was an elite among the wolves. Qin Feiyang looked at it with disdain, then glanced at the guards around him. He looked up at the city lord and smiled. Don't you want to know about your son's current situation? Yin. The city lord was shocked and hurriedly shouted, "Stop." The group of black-armored guards immediately braked and stopped. You know my son? The city lord looked at Qin Feiyang gloomily. Of course. We've met not long ago. Qin Feiyang smiled. Met? The city lord was stunned and asked, Cloud Mountain Village? Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded. The city lord said, Is he still in Cloud Mountain Village? Of course. Not only now, he will also be in Cloud Mountain Village in the future. Qin Feiyang said. What do you mean? Could it be? He fell in love with a woman in Cloud Mountain Village and wants to settle down in Cloud Mountain Village? The city lord frowned. He had never thought that his son was already dead, because he was confident. He was confident that no one would dare to hurt his son in the area under the jurisdiction of Black Rock City. Settle down? Qin Feiyang was a little stunned. He nodded and smiled. It seems to be the same. Anyway, he will stay in Cloud Mountain Village for the rest of his life. Looking at the smile on Qin Feiyang's face, the city lord felt that something was wrong. Qin Feiyang did not explain further. He glanced at the guards around him who were also confused. He looked at the city lord and asked, Are all the guards around you here? The city lord nodded instinctively. That's good. I don't have to look for them. Qin Feiyang smiled. What are you going to do? The city lord said angrily. What am I going to do? Isn't it obvious? I'm going to send you to hell. Qin Feiyang chuckled. What? Send us to hell? Is he talking in his sleep? A low-level divine lord dares to speak so arrogantly. The group of guards looked at each other. He must be a fool. The city lord sat on the chair, his hands grabbing the armrests on both sides of the chair. His face was full of mockery. But suddenly, his expression froze. This person did not come with good intentions. He had seen Yin-Er in Cloud Mountain Village. Could it be that Yin-Er had met with misfortune? Impossible. If the commander did not follow, this possibility could not be ruled out. However, the commander was by Yin-Er's side. He was a half-step divine lord. How could a small Cloud Mountain village hurt him? As for the man and wolf in front of him, a low-level divine lord and a perfected divine lord. With the commander's strength, he could kill them instantly. Laugh. Laugh as much as you want. Because this is the last time. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Sir, I can't hold it in anymore. This kid is too arrogant. Let me kill him. A black-armored guard shouted. The other black-armored guards also stared at Qin Feiyang angrily. Brother, can you keep a low profile? Look, there are so many perfected divine lords. And that bullshit city lord. Even I can't see through his cultivation. He must be a divine lord. You still dare to provoke them like this? Aren't you courting death? He Lang was anxious. He had never seen such an arrogant person. Bullshit city lord? That's a pretty good way to address me. It is indeed a bullshit city lord. Qin Feiyang laughed. He Lang was stunned. Immediately after, it sensed a bone-chilling gaze directed at it. He quivered and hurriedly looked at the city lord. With a flattering smile he said, City lord, I'm not talking about you. I'm saying. Who was he talking about? He didn't know. Because there was only one city lord here. Kill them. The city lord was furious and roared. A group of guards laughed and immediately pounced on the man and wolf. I've really suffered because of you. God, I beg you. In the next life, don't let me bump into this fiend again, okay? He Lang cried out in grief. Can you be a little more promising? I've lost all my face. Qin Feiyang's face was dark as he kicked over again. Following closely, he swept his gaze at those fierce-looking guards and sneered. A group of ants actually dared to jump out and jump around? Still arrogant? There's no hope, there's no hope. He Lang shook his head. This was the craziest human it had ever seen. There was no one who could compare to him. Still calling us ants? This bastard kid, if we don't let him suffer a little, he won't know how much he's worth. Don't kill him. I want to torture him well, and let him see the reality. Arrogant, you have to see who the opponent is? A group of guards gritted their teeth. Qin Feiyang lifted the corner of his mouth, and a strange invisible force suddenly surged out like a torrent. What's that? He Lang was surprised. Although this invisible force did not hurt it, it could clearly feel the threat of death. What? The next moment, its eyes suddenly widened, full of disbelief. The moment the 20 or so black-armored guards were swept by the invisible force, they immediately fell stiffly to the ground. The most important thing was, there was not the slightest wound on their bodies, as if they had suddenly died of exhaustion. Only screams echoed in the main hall, lingering for a long time. What's going on? What the hell? Not only He Lang, but the city lord also suddenly stood up, looking at those guards with a look of surprise. Died just like that? No way. He carefully observed the situation of those guards. There was no fluctuation of life, no breath, no heartbeat. What was this if not a sign of death? Swish. All of a sudden, the city lord stared at Qin Feiyang as if he was looking at a monster. How did he do it? Qin Feiyang glanced at He Lang and said, They all died before they could make a move. Tell me, if they're not ants, what are they? He Lang came back to his senses and stared blankly at Qin Feiyang. In his heart, he couldn't help but feel a chill. He never thought that this person still had such a terrifying method hidden. If this person had used this method to deal with him outside the city, then now he thinking of this. He Lang couldn't help but shiver. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat. He smiled flatteringly. Brother, you're really too fierce. You're simply my idol. Brother, accept me as your underling. I'll follow you from now on. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. He Lang chuckled and immediately pounced on those guards, plundering their Qianquan rings and the top-grade divine artifacts that fell on the ground. It didn't even let go of the black armor on those guards. It was clean and not a single hair was left. Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly, turned around and walked to the chair at the side. He sat on it and looked up at the city lord. The city lord was still in a daze. It wasn't his fault, because anyone who saw this scene would find it hard to face it. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Tell me immediately where the city lord's mansion's treasure vault is, or you'll end up like them. Qin Feiyang laughed. Treasure vault? As soon as He Lang heard these 3 words, his saliva flowed out. Compared to the city lord's mansion's treasure vault, what he was plundering now was nothing. He immediately ran to Qin Feiyang and squatted beside Qin Feiyang like a little lamb, obedient and obedient. The city lord finally came to his senses. Swish. He immediately looked at Qin Feiyang with murderous intent in his eyes. Not only did he kill his personal guards, but he also tried to enter the city lord's mansion's treasure vault. His arrogance was boundless. Most importantly, his son, the commander of the bodyguards, and the 10 bodyguards who had followed him had most likely met with misfortune. Do you know what cultivation level I am at? Beginner god. Killing you is as easy as killing a dog or a chicken. And that Cloud Mountain village. This city lord will personally lead my men to kill them all. This is the price you have to pay for angering me. The city lord suddenly let out a loud shout. An overflowing pressure surged towards Qin Feiyang like a raging wave in the ocean. Boom. The main hall instantly collapsed and shattered. The terrifying aura rolled in all directions, alarming everyone in the Black Rock City. Chapter 2378. What's going on? Why is the city lord so angry? In the city, people looked at the city lord's mansion in surprise. It's the city lord's bedroom. Everyone, follow me to take a look. Inside the mansion, it was also a mess. Groups of guards quickly rushed to the main hall. Although the main hall was razed to the ground, Qin Feiyang was still sitting on the chair calmly. Black Wolf was also motionless. In fact, it was pretending to be calm. After all, the city lord was a beginner god. When a god was angry, blood would flow for thousands of miles. Looking at the city lord again, he was like a furious beast, staring at Qin Feiyang. Not only will this city lord kill you, but I will also chop off your head and hang your corpse at the city gate. I will let the world know that this is the result of provoking the city lord's mansion. Little bastard, die. He waved his big hand, and a wave of divine power rolled out, pouncing toward Qin Feiyang. Black Wolf couldn't bear it anymore and ran away. But at the same time, Qin Feiyang also made a move. A wisp of blood rushed out and blasted toward the city lord's divine power. A monstrous killing intent also erupted. Boom. Immediately, that god power was like a withered tree that was easily crushed into pieces by the blood-colored light. What? The city lord's body stiffened. Black Wolf looked back, and was also dumbfounded. What the hell was that? Even the city lord's divine power couldn't block it? What a terrifying killing intent. Who is so bold to go to the city lord's mansion to cause trouble? At this moment, the people of Black Rock City looked at the city lord's mansion in horror. This killing intent. At the same time, in a luxurious tea house, a woman in red was sitting in a corner, elegantly drinking tea. Even if there was such a big commotion in the city lord's mansion, she didn't go to take a look. She was very calm. But when the killing intent appeared, she suddenly stood up and stared at the city lord's mansion in surprise. It's him. That's right, I can't kill this killing intent in my entire life, Qin Feiyang. The woman in red's face turned cold. She took a step forward and left the tea house. Miss, you haven't paid yet. One of the workers hurriedly chased after him. However, the woman in red had already disappeared without a trace. City Lord's mansion. How is this possible? The City Lord and Black Wolf were both mumbling. A low-level divine sovereign had actually been able to shatter the divine power of an early-level paragon god. There seemed to be no other explanation for this other than a dream. But now, this scene had truly appeared before his eyes. Why is this happening? Wait! Could it be that he was hiding his cultivation? The City Lord suddenly regained his senses and shouted, "Who are you?" But before he could finish speaking, his expression abruptly changed, and his eyes widened in anger and were filled with fear. This was because the wisp of crimson light had already arrived in front of him. No! With a mournful roar, the blood-red startled swan disappeared into his lower abdomen. A bloody hole instantly appeared. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Now can you tell me where the treasure vault is? You really came to Black Rock City." However, as soon as he finished speaking, a voice filled with killing intent rang out in the sky. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He looked up and saw a woman in red standing in the void above. "You're really haunting me." Qin Feiyang was quite angry. The blood-red startled swan turned into a stream of light and disappeared between the city lord's eyebrows like lightning. Boom. The city lord's head exploded on the spot. His divine soul was also annihilated. Following closely, Qin Feiyang did not stay any longer. He rushed behind Black Wolf, grabbed Black Wolf's tail, used the walk formula, and broke through the sky without looking back. Obviously, this woman was the Princess of Dragons. "What's wrong? Aren't you going to look for the treasure vault?" Black Wolf said. "Look for your sister, run for your life." Qin Feiyang glared at it. In a few moments, he had rushed out of Black Rock City and entered a mountain. "Don't even think about escaping," the Princess of Dragons sneered. After chasing out of the city, she stopped in the void and did not continue to chase after Qin Feiyang and Black Wolf. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. While saying such harsh words, she did not chase after him. Could it be that he would run over himself and surrender? No matter what she was going to do, he had to slip away quickly. Qin Feiyang immediately revived an altar. "As long as I find you, you have nowhere to run." The Princess of Dragons smiled coldly. Qin Feiyang grabbed Black Wolf and jumped onto the altar saying, "If it weren't for the dragons behind you, I would have killed you right now." The dragons behind her? Black Wolf was stunned. He stared at the Princess of Dragons in bewilderment and exclaimed, "Could she be one of the dragons? You're getting bolder and bolder. You even want to kill this sovereign's daughter." A dignified voice suddenly sounded. This voice, Qin Feiyang's face changed greatly. Wasn't that Long Zun's voice? Damn it. Why was this old witch here? "Altar, hurry up, hurry up!" Qin Feiyang roared in his heart. Fwa. In the next moment, a ray of divine light shot out from between the Princess of Dragons' eyebrows and condensed into a blurry figure. Who else could it be but Long Zun? Previous chapter, next chapter, boom. Immediately, a vast amount of pressure pounced towards Qin Feiyang and Black Wolf like a tide. "Fire Lotus, give me the axe," Qin Feiyang secretly shouted. Even though it was only a clone of Long Zun, it was not something he could shake. Clang. Fire Lotus also knew the seriousness of the situation, and immediately summoned her axe, and said to the artifact spirit, "No matter what, we can't let Qin Dage get injured. If it's just to escape with him, there's no problem at all." The artifact spirit said. Outside, Qin Feiyang's mind moved, and the axe suddenly materialized. Clang. There was not a single word. The axe directly slashed towards the sky, and a monstrous aura surged out. That pressure was blocked. But without unlocking the seal, the axe was not Long Zun's opponent at all, even though she was only a clone now. After all, when they were in the Sky Dragon Sea, Qin Feiyang activated the slaughter domain. Facing Long Zun's clone, he could only be abused. But fortunately, Qin Feiyang and Black Wolf, who were standing on the altar, were also rapidly fading away. They were about to be teleported away. So, as long as the axe could block it, even if it was only for half a blink of an eye, it was enough. There's still a long way to go. Let's fight again in the future. The axe did not continue to fight, and entered the altar in a flash. Boom. The terrifying pressure of the dragon race instantly covered the sky and covered the earth. But before the pressure came, one man, one wolf, and the axe were finally teleported away. When the pressure came, the altar immediately turned into ashes. Damn it. Long Zun was furious. This was not the first time. To think that as the strongest person in the ancient world, she could not do anything to a small Sir God, it was really a great shame. "Greetings, Lord Long Zun." A black-robed old man flew out of the city, landed behind Long Zun's clone, and respectfully knelt in the void. "Who are you?" Long Zun raised her eyebrows. "I am the Black Dragons. Under the orders of the Patriarch, I have been guarding Black Rock City," the black-robed old man said. That's right. He was the backer behind the City Lord Mansion. A perfected god. Guarding Black Rock City? Then why didn't you know that Qin Feiyang entered Black Rock City? Why did you only come out now? Long Zun shouted angrily. Qin Feiyang? The black-robed old man was surprised. Although he had been staying in Black Rock City, the news about Qin Feiyang had long spread among the dragons. So, he also knew about Qin Feiyang's existence. He also knew that Qin Feiyang was Long Zun's biggest problem. In other words, the person who made a scene in the City Lord Mansion was Qin Feiyang that everyone had been looking for? Mother, you can't blame him. After all, he has never seen Qin Feiyang in person, and Qin Feiyang has changed his appearance. The Princess of the Dragons said. Mother? The black-robed old man was shocked again and hurriedly said, Greetings, Your Highness. This strange woman was actually the princess. Because the Princess of the Dragons had also changed her appearance, he did not recognize her. And the Princess of the Dragons nodded, looked at Long Zun's clone and said, Mother, don't worry, I will find him again, and at that time, I will definitely not let him escape. Long Zun's clone nodded, turned into a stream of light, and entered the Princess of the Dragons' glabella. The black-robed old man heaved a sigh of relief. The Princess of the Dragons looked at the place where the altar was shattered, and a hint of anger flashed in her eyes. She looked at the black-robed old man and asked, Do you know why Qin Feiyang came to the City Lord Mansion? The black-robed old man shook his head and said, This subordinate has been cultivating in seclusion, so I don't know. I know this person too well. He would never kill the City Lord for no reason. Go and investigate immediately. You must give me an answer within half an hour. The Princess of the Dragons shouted. Yes, the black-robed old man respectfully responded, and immediately turned and flew towards the City Lord Mansion. Qin Feiyang, let's see how long you can escape. The Princess of the Dragons clenched her hands, and killing intent flashed in her eyes. Outside the city, Qin Feiyang, Black Wolf, appeared in the sky above a canyon. This was Black Wolf's lair. The axe was also floating by the side. So scary. Just now, I really thought I was going to die. Black Wolf weakly lay in the void, panting. Qin Feiyang was also covered in cold sweat. He thought that if he entered the Black Rock City, he might meet the Princess of the Dragons. But he never thought that there would be a clone of the Dragon Sovereign. Fortunately, he didn't rush to kill the Princess of the Dragons on impulse, otherwise it would have been another bloody battle. It didn't matter if it was a bloody battle, but he was afraid of hurting those innocent people. Ever since he saw the destruction caused by the unsealing of the heaven-defying artifact, he didn't want to do that again. Although war is ruthless, it should be avoided as much as possible. Besides, now that the castle was sealed again, even if he unsealed the axe at all costs, he couldn't beat the Dragon Sovereign. Black Wolf recovered, looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Big brother, who are those two women just now? The Dragon Sovereign, the Princess of the Dragons. Qin Feiyang said. What? How did you provoke them? He Lang jumped to his feet, his face filled with fear. Although he hadn't seen the Dragon Sovereign and the Princess of the Dragons with his own eyes, in the entire Divine Continent, who didn't know of their existence? They were the rulers of Divine Continent. So what if I provoked them? As expected, Qin Feiyang was right. You're just a useless coward. The artifact spirit snorted. Chapter 2379. What did you say? Say it again. Do you believe that I will beat you up? The Black Wolf stared at the axe angrily as if someone had stepped on his sore spot. Beat it up. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Did this wolf cub eat a leopard's guts? He actually dared to say that he would beat up a heaven-defying artifact? The artifact spirit was also a little stunned. It was the first time that someone dared to talk to him like this. No, it was not a human, but a wolf. What's more, he was a cowardly and shameless wolf. The Black Wolf was proud. But suddenly, its eyes widened and it rushed behind Qin Feiyang, staring at the axe and said in surprise, Big brother, he can actually speak human language. Ah. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Only now did he notice a little? He was really slow to realize. The artifact spirit was also speechless. This big black wolf was really weird. He probably did not notice Qin Feiyang's real name. Previously, he had called Qin Feiyang's real name, but this big black wolf did not react at all. Was he slow to realize? Or was he really slow? It was probably not. He should have been frightened by the dragons and Princess Long Zun. After all, such a big figure, ordinary people would be scared out of their wits. The artifact spirit sighed. Qin Feiyang, I think you should keep a low profile in the future. I know. Qin Feiyang nodded. In the face of the dragons, even a heaven-defying artifact like the axe was helpless, let alone him now. At least until he broke through to the undead stage, he would have the qualification to challenge the dragons. Your name is Qin Feiyang? The big black wolf looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Sure enough, the artifact spirit was speechless. He really did not notice. Qin Feiyang could not help but smile bitterly. This guy's brain should have been scared silly. The artifact spirit said, Okay, be careful. Qin Feiyang nodded. With a wave of his hand, the axe entered the castle and returned to the fire lotus. Big brother, this broken axe is completely rusted. It doesn't even look like it's qualified to chop firewood, but why is it so powerful? The big black wolf looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Chopping firewood? The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched, and he said, If he hears this, he'll definitely hack you to death. The big black wolf shrunk its neck and asked carefully, Then what grade is it? Take a guess. Qin Feiyang smiled. Legendary divine artifact? No. The coiling dragon staff is also a legendary divine artifact, but it's not on the same level as him. Could it be that he has already surpassed the legendary level? The big black wolf was bewildered. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He did not answer its question. He crossed his arms and looked at it silently. What is it? The big black wolf was suspicious. Was there anything on it? It was so awkward to look at it like this. Qin Feiyang joked, You already know my real name. I'm wondering if I should kill you to silence you. Silence me? Big brother, I have parents and children. My whole family depends on me. No. My whole family depends on me, a wolf, to make a living. You can't kill me. How about this, you take me in as your little brother. You'll live a good life with me in the future. No. I'll follow you in the future. I'll live a good life with you. The big black wolf's eyes trembled. It quickly stood up, stretched out its front two paws, and hugged Qin Feiyang's waist, crying in snot. There are elders and children at home? Qin Feiyang's face kept twitching. He really could not find the right words to describe this guy. Big brother. Look at me. My parents died early. I'm all alone. I don't even have a descendant. Can you bear to kill me? The big black wolf cried and rubbed its nose, tears, and saliva on Qin Feiyang's body. It rubbed its nose, tears, and saliva all over Qin Feiyang's body. Get lost. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. He kicked the big black wolf, and it was immediately sent flying with a cry. Big brother. I'm so pitiful. The big black wolf did not care and pounced on Qin Feiyang again. Stop. If you come again, I'll really kill you. Qin Feiyang shouted. When the big black wolf heard this, it immediately stopped and looked at Qin Feiyang pitifully. Didn't you just say that you have parents and children, and that your whole family depends on you? Why did you say that your parents died early and you don't even have a descendant? Qin Feiyang said with a dark face. The big black wolf was stunned and asked, Did I say that? Nonsense. Do you think I'm deaf? Qin Feiyang said angrily. Sorry this. Cough cough. Actually, it's all true. My background is a little complicated. Yes, that's it. You have to believe me. We were just going through thick and thin together in Black Rock City. I definitely won't lie to you. The big black wolf laughed. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. This was a shameless guy. If this guy got together with the white-eyed wolf, wouldn't it cause a ruckus all day long? No. The white-eyed wolf finally stopped playing around and focused on cultivating in seclusion. He could not be led astray by this guy again. However, this pitiful look really made it hard for him to do anything. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered. The big black wolf was extremely nervous. A moment later, Qin Feiyang shook his head, looked up at the big black wolf, and waved his hand. You can leave. Leave. The big black wolf was stunned. It really wanted to leave. But could it leave? Definitely not. Because until now it hadn't gotten any benefits at all. Although the universe rings of the 20 or so guards, and the supreme grade divine artifacts were also considered a considerable amount of wealth, but could they be compared to the peak level divine artifacts and legendary divine artifacts? Big brother, just accept me. Don't look at how timid I am now. If I really want to be ruthless, I'm stronger than anyone else. The big black wolf smiled fawningly. That's not the point. You should know how powerful the dragons are. There's no benefit for you to follow me. Let me put it this way. In the eyes of the dragons, I'm a thorn in their side. Qin Feiyang said. He was actually lazy to follow him? It was really helpless. Of course I know that. Even the dragon sovereign and the dragon princess personally came to kill you. You're definitely not a good person. He spoke too quickly and directly spilled the beans. What did you say? Qin Feiyang frowned. No. What I mean is that you're definitely a good person. Otherwise, why would the dragons, these heinous bastards, chase after you? However, since we're already brothers, I definitely can't leave you and drag out an ignoble existence alone. So I've made a big decision. I'm going to fight against the dark forces with you. The big black wolf roared with righteous indignation. Qin Feiyang smiled. He really couldn't help it. This guy was too outrageous. Didn't he just want the coiling dragon rod on him? And he said it so righteously. Big brother, I've already supported you so much. If you still want to abandon me, then you're a heartless man. The big black wolf looked at Qin Feiyang with grievance. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, I've lost to you. All right, you can follow me first. Thank you, big brother. In the future, I'll definitely be at your beck and call. The big black wolf roared excitedly. Stop. Don't say such useless things. Qin Feiyang glared at it. Okay. I won't say any more. Big brother, since I've already followed you, shouldn't you give me something? For example, that coiling dragon rod. Don't misunderstand. I'm not greedy for the legendary artifact. I'm just fighting for your face. Look, as your little brother, if I don't have a decent weapon, wouldn't I be embarrassing you, right? The big black wolf licked his face and laughed. Scram as far away as you can. Qin Feiyang said expressionlessly, and then lowered his head to think. A hint of disappointment flashed across the big black wolf's eyes. He smiled flatteringly and said, Big brother, where are we going next? Qin Feiyang patiently said, Remember, when I'm thinking, don't disturb me. Okay. The big black wolf nodded repeatedly, but in his heart, he was extremely unhappy. Don't you just have a few divine artifacts? What are you pretending for? Once this emperor gets his hands on them, he'll just leave and not be angered by you. About 10 breaths later, Qin Feiyang's face suddenly revealed a smile. What's wrong? The big black wolf looked at him suspiciously. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, In 2 days, we'll break into the city lord's mansion again. What? The big black wolf's eyes widened in anger. Go to the city lord's mansion again. Isn't this courting death? Madman, what a madman. Following this kind of person will definitely lead to a short life. What do you know? The dragon's princess changed her appearance and guarded Blackrock City in order to find me. This time it wasn't easy to catch me, but she let me escape from under her nose. Guess what she'll do next? Qin Feiyang laughed. Of course she'll continue to wait. The big black wolf said. Wrong. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Wrong. The big black wolf was stunned. Qin Feiyang said. Since I already know that she's waiting in Blackrock City, will I still go there? Only a fool would go. The big black wolf said without hesitation. Yes. Only a fool would go. So she'll definitely think that I'll leave Blackrock City and she'll naturally go to other places to find me. Qin Feiyang laughed. I understand now. You intend to wait for her to leave before coming back. The big black wolf suddenly understood. That's right. The city lord's mansion's treasure vault can't be missed just like that. Qin Feiyang laughed. Treasure vault. The big black wolf's eyes lit up. Since it was for the treasure vault, it was worth the risk. Wait. Suddenly, the big black wolf looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and asked, "Then how do you know when she'll leave?" "This depends on you. Go to Blackrock City and ask." Qin Feiyang said. "Don't joke. Me. I'm not enough to fill the gaps between their teeth." The big black wolf shook his head vigorously. Only a fool would do something as suicidal as that. "You're really not going?" Qin Feiyang said. No, I'm definitely not going." The big black wolf shook his head like a rattledrum. "All right then. I wanted to say that I'll give you a great creation after this matter is done. But now it seems like I won't have that chance." Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed as he glanced at the big black wolf and shook his head regretfully. Chapter 2380. What good fortune? The big black wolf was startled and asked anxiously. Qin Feiyang laughed. "A great fortune, even more important than the legendary level artifact." "This," the big black wolf was stunned, and said, All right, I'll go right away. It's just asking for information, it's nothing." Finished. The big black wolf then turned around and ran towards Blackrock City. Qin Feiyang laughed bitterly. It seemed like he couldn't get rid of this guy, and said loudly, "When you come back, if you don't see me, just shout here." "Got it." The big black wolf waved his claws without turning his head. "I hope you can return safely," Qin Feiyang muttered. If he could return safely, it meant that this big black wolf was quite powerful. At that time it wouldn't be impossible to train him a little. Next, Qin Feiyang entered the castle to cultivate. Blackrock City. City Lord's mansion. In a quiet courtyard, Princess Dragon sat in the pavilion, quietly drinking tea. At the side, 2 servant maids were waiting on him. Suddenly, the old man in black flew through the air and landed outside the pavilion, waving at the 2 servant maids. The 2 servant maids immediately bowed and retreated. After the 2 of them disappeared from his sight, the old man in black retracted his gaze, knelt on the ground, and said respectfully, "Greetings, Your Highness." "Get up." Princess Dragons put down her teacup and said indifferently. The old man in black stood up and said, "Your Highness, I have already asked everyone in the mansion, and no one knows the purpose of Qin Feiyang coming to the City Lord's mansion." Princess Dragons clenched her jade-like hands. The old man in black's expression changed as he knelt on the ground again and said, "This subordinate is incompetent. Please punish me, Your Highness." Princess Dragons didn't even look at him. She lowered her head and looked at the table, her eyes shining with a cold light. A long while passed. Princess Dragons let go of her hand and asked, "I heard from the 2 servant maids that the City Lord of Blackrock City has a son?" "Yes." The old man in black nodded. Princess Dragons said, "His father is dead, why didn't he appear?" "Your Highness, please forgive me. This subordinate did not know about this matter. However, I heard that this person left Blackrock City this morning with the commander of the guards and 10 guards. But I didn't find out where exactly he went. I think only the City Lord and the City Lord's guards know about this. Unfortunately, they're all dead," the old man in black said regretfully. "Left in the morning?" Princess Dragons frowned. After leaving in the morning, Qin Feiyang came to Blackrock City and killed the City Lord. Could there be a connection between the two? Thinking of this, Princess Dragons looked at the black-clothed old man and said, "Go and check again. Where did the City Lord's son go today?" "Yes." The black-clothed old man replied respectfully. Then he got up and left in large strides. "Qin Feiyang, you bastard, how dare you trick me in the Eastern Tomb? Wait. No matter where you hide, I will find you." Princess Dragons clenched her hands together again. When she thought of how she was played by Qin Feiyang in the Eastern Tomb, she couldn't help but feel a burst of anger in her heart. However, 3 days passed in a row, and the black-clothed old man still couldn't find the whereabouts of the City Lord's son. The commander of the guards and the 10 guards seemed to have disappeared from the face of the earth. This gave the black-clothed old man a headache. How should he explain to the princess? He had no choice. He could only brace himself and go to find Princess Dragons. Without a doubt, Princess Dragons was furious and almost killed the black-clothed old man. After staying for another half a month, Princess Dragons couldn't stay any longer and finally decided to leave. Just as Qin Feiyang expected. She thought that Qin Feiyang had already gone somewhere else. After sending Princess Dragons away, the black-clothed old man finally breathed a sigh of relief. Half a month, plus 3 days, that was 18 days. While 18 days had passed outside, Qin Feiyang had already been in closed-door training in the ancient castle for 180 years. The reason why he was interested in the City Lord's Mansion's treasure vault was entirely because he wanted to see if there was any green pear divine wood. Moreover, the nirvana tree that Li Dashan had contributed must also be in the treasure vault. These treasures couldn't be missed. "Big brother, I'm back." The big black wolf's voice sounded outside. Qin Feiyang immediately woke up from his seclusion and immediately appeared in the sky above the canyon. The big black wolf was stunned and smiled obsequiously. "Big brother, I didn't expect you to have a spatial divine object. Let's get down to business." As she left, Qin Feiyang said, "Yes, I saw her leave with my own eyes." The big black wolf nodded. "You saw it with your own eyes?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. This was a bit difficult. "These days, I have been lurking near the City Lord's mansion. Not long ago, I was above the City Lord's mansion and saw a black-clothed old man send her away. How is it? I'm still a little powerful." The big black wolf chuckled. "How did you do it?" Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. A wolf had been lurking near the City Lord's mansion for so long without being discovered by anyone? The big black wolf's expression froze, as if it was difficult to speak. "Speak," Qin Feiyang said. The big black wolf lowered its head and said, "I transformed into a human." He felt that transforming into a human was a form of humiliation for it. What's there to be embarrassed about? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Even the dragons had transformed into human form. What was a wolf being pretentious about? The big black wolf smiled embarrassedly and said, "Let's go to the City Lord's mansion now." "Of course." Qin Feiyang nodded, took an illusory form pill, and changed his appearance. "What about me?" The big black wolf looked at Qin Feiyang and asked. Qin Feiyang was stunned and frowned. "Can't you transform into a human?" "But..." The big black wolf lowered its head, looking reluctant. "All right. Hide in my arms first." Qin Feiyang shook his head helplessly. "Okay." The big black wolf grinned, its body quickly shrank, and then it crawled into Qin Feiyang's arms. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, opened an altar, and directly descended on the City Lord's mansion. Half a month passed. The destroyed hall had been cleaned up, but it was not rebuilt. There were no guards nearby. Qin Feiyang glanced around and asked in a low voice, "You said you saw an old man in black just now?" "Yes. His aura is very strong. I think he's at least a perfected paragon. And according to my inquiries, he seems to be the backer behind the City Lord's mansion, the Dragon's Man." The big black wolf said. "The dragons?" Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. As soon as the big black wolf saw Qin Feiyang's expression, he realized that something was wrong and hurriedly said, "I think it's best not to provoke him at this time to avoid complications." "You're quite smart this time." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Of course." The big black wolf chuckled. "You're starting to be smug? Then do you know why I asked you to come to Black Rock City to inquire about information?" Qin Feiyang said. "Because I can do it." The big black wolf blurted out. "Can do it? How shameless can you be? Let me tell you, I was testing you. If you betrayed me, you would take the princess dragons to the canyon to find me. However, you didn't disappoint me," Qin Feiyang said. The big black wolf's pupils shrank. It turned out that it was a trick. Fortunately, he didn't make a mistake, or it would be over. Qin Feiyang laughed and said, "Do you still think you're smart now?" "Of course I'm smart. Because I made a smart choice and didn't choose to betray you," the big black wolf said. Qin Feiyang was speechless. Because what the big black wolf said made sense. "Someone is coming." Suddenly, the big black wolf transmitted his voice. Qin Feiyang was shocked and hurriedly looked around. On a small path hundreds of meters to the left, he saw 2 guards. Both of them had the cultivation of a perfected divine lord. They seemed to have something to do and hurriedly walked over. Qin Feiyang restrained his aura, so the two of them didn't notice him. The big black wolf said, "Catch them and interrogate them." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded and walked toward the two of them. "Big brother, wait. What are you doing? You're just going to walk over like this?" The big black wolf hurriedly shouted. "Otherwise?" Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "We're here to be thieves. We have to sneak over and take them down in one fell swoop when they're not paying attention." The big black wolf said, "That's what a small thief does." Qin Feiyang smiled. "Okay, I'm convinced." The big black wolf said powerlessly, "Who are you?" The two guards finally noticed Qin Feiyang, and their eyes flashed with cold light. "Big brothers, don't misunderstand. I didn't barge in. I got permission from the guard at the door," Qin Feiyang said as he walked toward the two of them. "Then who are you? Why are you in the city lord's mansion?" The two of them looked at each other, looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously and asked. Qin Feiyang looked around, leaned in front of the two of them and whispered, "I know where the young city lord is." "Young city lord?" The two of them were stunned, and a trace of joy appeared in their eyes. But also at this time, Qin Feiyang grabbed the two of them and disappeared from where he stood. Black Tortoise Realm. Medicine Field. The two guards looked around in bewilderment. Qin Feiyang stood in front of the two of them and said with a smile, "Welcome to my spatial divine object." "Spatial divine object? So big. Who the hell are you?" The two of them stared at Qin Feiyang warily. Qin Feiyang made a shushing gesture and said, "Don't talk, just answer my question." The two of them looked at each other, and a fierce light flashed in their eyes. Suddenly, they threw a punch at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang did not move, and looked at the two of them with a smile. Roar! The big black wolf rushed out, raised its claws, and smashed towards the two of them. The two of them immediately let out a miserable howl, and fell to the ground in a sorry state. The big black werewolf stood in front of Qin Feiyang, arms akimbo, and shouted like an old man. "How dare you be impudent in front of my big brother? Are you looking for death?" "It's you." The two guards recognized the big black wolf as soon as they saw it. They never thought that this man and wolf would dare to come to the city lord's residence. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Now can you answer my questions honestly?" Ask. The two guards got up and nodded. Seeing that the two of them were obedient, the big black wolf also started to look at the Black Tortoise Realm curiously. "What? That's the spiritual infant tree. And the creation tree. Earth Flame Flower, Heaven Flame Grass, and Mother Earth Chaos Divine Ginseng. Wait, isn't that my 9th grade immortal lotus?" Soon, the big black wolf noticed the herbs in the medicine field, and saliva instantly flowed out. Chapter 2381. Qin Feiyang didn't care about it. If it was outside, he would definitely pay attention. But in the Black Tortoise world, no one had the ability to take away a blade of grass or a tree from under his nose. Qin Feiyang looked at the two guards and asked, "Where is the city lord's mansion's treasure trove?" "Treasure trove? So you're here for the treasure trove?" The two guards suddenly realized. These days, they had been ordered to investigate the reason why Qin Feiyang and the big black wolf killed the city lord, but they had no clue. They had thought of many possibilities, but they didn't think of the treasure trove. Qin Feiyang said, "Answer me." "We don't know." The two shook their heads. "You don't know?" Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows. "I'm not lying to you. We really don't know. The treasure trove in the city lord's mansion has always been a secret. The only people who know are the city lord, the young city lord, and the city lord's confidants. But these people have been killed by you. As for the young city lord and the commander, we don't know where they are now." The two said. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but have a headache after hearing this. If he had known, he would have read the young city lord's memory. Otherwise, why would he have to go through so much trouble? Qin Feiyang frowned. Besides them, no one else knows. What we said is true. If you don't believe me, you can catch a few more people and ask. The two nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "Then this treasure trove, won't it become an eternal secret?" "It won't. When the new city lord takes office, he will definitely start looking for the treasure trove. The two said. Wait. Suddenly, one of them looked stunned, pondered for a while and said, there seems to be another person who knows the location of the treasure trove. Who? Qin Feiyang quickly asked. The guard said Long Qi. Yes. This Long Qi should know. The other guard also patted his head and hurriedly said. Who is Long Qi? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Draconic 7 belongs to the dragons. Under the orders of the dragons, I am here to guard Blackrock City. Usually even the city lord has to listen to him. The two guards said. Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of the black-clothed old man that the big black wolf had mentioned. He asked, is it an old man dressed in black? Yes. I heard that his cultivation base is already at the great circle of the paramount god level. The two said. Paragon. He's even stronger than He Lang estimated. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. Given his current abilities, could he possibly defeat a perfect paragon without activating the slaughter domain? My lord, we've been very honest, haven't we? We've told you everything. Can you let us go? The two of them looked at Qin Feiyang nervously. Qin Feiyang asked, where is Long Qi now? The two of them said, he's in the backyard right now. We're just about to go see him. You're going to see him? Qin Feiyang was curious. The two of them said, the head of the Wu family came to ask for an audience, so we rushed over to report. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded thoughtfully. Suddenly, he came up with a plan and looked at the two of them with a smile. Take off your black armor. The two of them were very nimble, and took off the black armor in no time. Where's the backyard? Qin Feiyang asked. Follow the path we took just now and walk all the way to the end. The two of them said. Okay. You can leave now. Qin Feiyang smiled. Thank you. The two of them were grateful. But soon, a trace of suspicion crept onto their faces. Why didn't he tell them to leave? Why didn't he send them out? Let's go. What are you still standing here for? Qin Feiyang frowned. Where are we going? The two of them were confused. Qin Feiyang said. This space is very big. You can go anywhere you want. Sir, aren't you imprisoning us in disguise? We've already answered your question. How can you do this? The two of them immediately shouted. They didn't know that this was a real world. Fire Lotus. Qin Feiyang spoke. Fire Lotus walked out of the castle. Qin Feiyang sent a sound transmission. Black Tortoise Realm should also inject some new blood and send them out of the Devil's Land. Pay more attention. Okay. Fire Lotus waved her hand, wrapped the two of them up, and soared into the sky, disappearing like a bolt of lightning. Qin Feiyang put on a set of black armor and disguised himself as one of them. Then he grabbed the big black wolf and appeared outside. Big brother, you have such a big medicine field. Why do you want to steal my 9th grade immortal lotus? The big black wolf went into Qin Feiyang's arms and said unhappily. Didn't you say that we're brothers? Since we're brothers, then isn't what's yours equal to mine? You're treating me like an outsider. Qin Feiyang laughed as he walked along the small path, quickly walking inside. Shameless. The big black wolf complained. Not long after, a small lake appeared in front of him. The lake water was clear and sparkling. A few white swans slowly swam on the lake, looking very peaceful. On one side of the lake, there was a 2-story pavilion. Looking around, there was no trace of anyone. Qin Feiyang jumped up and landed in front of the pavilion. Immediately, a woman's gasping sound entered his ears. Why is there a woman's voice? The big black wolf popped his head out and looked at the pavilion suspiciously. Children don't ask if they don't understand. Qin Feiyang sent a sound transmission. The big black wolf rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang, listened carefully for a while and laughed. So he's hiding here to have fun. The dragon's princess just left, and he came here to have fun. It seems that the dragon's princess gave him a lot of pressure these days. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. The big black wolf secretly laughed. Why don't we go take a look? You have such a hobby. Qin Feiyang looked at him in shock. Purely curious. The big black wolf smiled embarrassedly. I think I have to call you a big pervert in the future. Qin Feiyang looked at him with disdain, took a deep breath, pretended to be very anxious, and called to the pavilion. Sir? What's the matter? A dissatisfied shout immediately came out. Qin Feiyang said, There's something I think I need to tell you. Speak. The voice of the old man in black sounded again, sounding even more impatient. Is it convenient? Qin Feiyang asked. If I tell you to speak, then speak. What nonsense are you talking about? The old man in black said angrily. Coming to him at this time, wasn't he deliberately trying to ruin the atmosphere? Okay. The young city lord is back, and he went to the treasure house. Qin Feiyang said. What? In less than 3 breaths. The old man in black ran out, his clothes disheveled, looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, Are you sure he went to the treasure house? I asked him, he said he was going to the treasure house. As soon as he came back, he went to the treasure house. I felt that this matter was a bit strange, so I specially came to report to you. Qin Feiyang said respectfully. Very good. Later, I'll reward you heavily. The old man in black patted Qin Feiyang's shoulder, turned into a stream of light, and flew to the back of the pavilion. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Is the treasure house here? He hurriedly looked at the pavilion, and saw that the woman inside didn't come out, so he activated the concealment method and chased after her. Behind the pavilion there was a pine forest about half a mile long. The evergreen pine trees were tall and straight. Entering the pine forest, Qin Feiyang saw the old man in black standing in front of a somewhat muddy pool. The pool was not only muddy, but also many dead branches and rotten leaves floating, exuding a rotten smell. Next to it, there was a pile of stones. It looked very inconspicuous. But when the black-clothed old man grabbed a piece of rock and forcefully turned it, the pool automatically split apart, revealing a gloomy underground passage. Then, the old man in black rushed in. So secretive? If no one leads the way, I can't find it at all. Qin Feiyang murmured secretly, and quickly rushed into the underground passage before the pool closed. The dark passage was about 2 meters tall, and it was pitch black. Qin Feiyang restrained his aura, and dashed along the secret passage. After about a dozen breaths, he didn't know how deep he had been underground, and a stone door finally appeared. The stone door exuded a strong breath. But at this time, the stone door was open, and the old man in black stood in front of the stone door, glancing inside with a fierce light in his eyes. It seems that is the treasure house, the big black wolf said. Qin Feiyang nodded and didn't stop at all. He held his breath, suppressed his heartbeat, and went straight to the treasure house. What are you doing? Stop. He is standing at the door. Even if you are invisible, you can't escape his senses. The big black wolf hurriedly shouted. Why is this person so crazy? He also hurriedly stopped breathing and suppressed his heartbeat. But Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear and finally came to the door of the treasure house, standing beside the old man in black. At such a close distance, the big black wolf was extremely nervous, for fear that the old man in black would kill it with a wave of his hand. Qin Feiyang wasn't worried at all. Turning sideways, he walked past the old man in black without touching the ground and successfully entered the treasure house. But the old man in black didn't notice anything unusual. What's the situation? The big black wolf was stunned. Is the invisibility effect so strong? It was a little unbelievable. Bang! Suddenly, the old man in black released his divine thought, and instantly swept the entire treasure house and the entire underground passage. I'm dead. The big black wolf wailed. Although invisibility could escape the eyes, it couldn't escape the search of divine thought. Qin Feiyang was still calm. Why is there no one? Is he not here yet? The old man in black quickly withdrew his divine thought, and a trace of suspicion crept up between his eyebrows. He glanced at the treasure house again and waved his hand. The stone door quickly closed and then he turned and left. What's going on? His divine thought didn't discover us. His cultivation level must be fake. The big black wolf was stunned. Previously, it thought that it was dead, but in the end, nothing happened. Fake. Qin Feiyang was speechless. If it wasn't for the divine moon jade pendant on his neck, not to mention entering the treasure house, He would have been discovered as soon as he entered the secret passage. But now, he wasn't in the mood to explain and turned to look at the treasure house. His face was full of shock. The big black wolf didn't ask any more questions, because it was also shocked by the treasure house. Chapter 2382. The treasure vault was more than 10,000 feet in size. Rows of iron shelves were arranged neatly. On the left were divine weapons, and on the right were divine arts. Inside there were many interspatial rings and interspatial bags. How many were there? So many. Big Black Wolf came back to his senses, and immediately ran to the divine weapons on the left, because to him divine weapons were more important than anything else. Qin Feiyang walked to the divine arts on the right. With so many divine arts, there must be one that was suitable for him to cultivate. Scanning with his divine consciousness, the information in the jade slips flowed into his mind one after another. Low-tier divine art, clear spirit technique. Low-tier divine art, focus technique. Middle-tier divine art, wind controlling technique. High-tier divine art, illusionary treasure book. Perfect divine art, cloud gathering sword technique. Return to one divine art, gradually. Qin Feiyang's face showed a trace of disappointment. There were many divine arts, but none of them were peak level, let alone legendary level. Now a perfect divine art could no longer arouse his interest. Damn you! At this moment, Big Black Wolf's angry curse sounded. Qin Feiyang turned his head and saw Big Black Wolf angrily glancing at the divine weapons. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. There are so many divine weapons, but none of them are peak level or legendary level. The highest is supreme level. What kind of treasure vault is this? Big Black Wolf was furious. Originally, he was looking forward to it, but the result was disappointing. Blackrock City is just a small place in the divine land. It's normal that there are only supreme level divine weapons. Qin Feiyang smiled. He didn't take it to heart, because what he was looking forward to the most was not divine arts or divine weapons, but soul stones. Although there were no high-level divine weapons or divine arts here, there must be a lot of soul stones and divine crystals. I don't believe that there isn't even a peak-level divine weapon. Look carefully. Big Black Wolf was very unwilling to give up. He released his divine consciousness and began to search. Qin Feiyang went straight inside and grabbed an interspatial bag. It was full of medicinal herbs. Basically, he had seen them before. He grabbed another cosmos ring, and his eyes lit up. The cosmos ring was filled with at least hundreds of billions of divine gems. Immediately after, he walked to the deepest part of the cave and grabbed a few more cosmos rings to check. One of the interspatial rings was filled with soul stones. It was estimated that there were billions of them. The others were filled with divine crystals. Innumerable. Suddenly, he found a jade box in a corner. The jade box could be as big as an adult's palm. The surface was spotless. The problem was that it was too clean. This was because the interspatial ring, interspatial bag, and even the iron rack were covered with a layer of dust. Clearly, this jade box had been placed here not long ago. He put down the universe ring in his hand and opened the jade box. A strange fragrance immediately assailed his nostrils. Shockingly, within the jade box lay 3 dark gray fruits that were the size of pigeon eggs. Strands of black mist coiled around them, and they emitted a mysterious aura. This is Qin Feiyang's body trembled. Wasn't this the Nirvana divine fruit? As he had expected, the city lord had placed the Nirvana divine fruit in the treasury. Wait, why don't I see the Nirvana divine tree? Qin Feiyang glanced around. No, the Nirvana divine tree can't be placed in the treasury. There is only one possibility for such a precious tree. Where is it planted? In other words, there should be a herb field in the city lord's mansion. Qin Feiyang murmured, and his eyes suddenly lit up. If there was really a herb field, then this herb field was the real treasure. Because the area under the jurisdiction of the Blackrock City was too large. Even if one didn't deliberately plunder, one could collect a lot of rare herbs over the years. There were also crystal veins and soul vein. Even a small village like Cloud Mountain Village had a level 9 soul vein and crystal vein. let alone this huge city lord's mansion. Herb field, crystal vein, soul vein. These three things were very likely to be together, because crystal vein could nurture soul vein and herbs. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang didn't delay any longer and immediately began to sweep through the interspatial rings and interspatial bags on the iron rack. Outside, the old man in black stood by the pool and glanced around, his brows tightly knitted together. He originally thought that the young city lord hadn't rushed over yet, so he stayed here, because there was only one entrance to the treasury. Whether the young city lord secretly came or used the altar to teleport here, he couldn't hide it from him. However, it had been so long, but he still hadn't seen the young city lord come, which made him feel confused. Lord Longqi. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the direction of the lake. The old man in black was stunned, and with a few flashes he arrived above the lake, only to see a black armored guard standing at the entrance of the lake. Greetings, Lord. The guard bowed. What's the matter? The old man in black was suspicious. The guard said, the Wu family head wants to see you, and said that no matter what, please go and see him. The old man in black frowned and said, did he say anything? No. The guard shook his head. The old man in black pondered for a while, stepped in front of the guard and said, let's go. Yes. The guard nodded respectfully, followed behind the old man in black and asked, Lord, have you seen Pai Lupi and Theta Wang? Who are they? The old man in black asked. The guard said, they are my companions, and they came to report this to you before. I didn't see them. The old man in black shook his head. The guard said in a deep voice, then they must be neglecting their duties. The old man in black's eyes turned cold, and said, if that's the case, then punish them severely. Yes. The guard respectfully replied. Wait. But suddenly, the old man in black stopped, lowered his head, and looked thoughtful. Lord, what's wrong? The guard looked at him suspiciously. The old man in black turned to look at the guard, waved his old hand, and a shadow quickly condensed, and asked, do you know him? The guard looked at the shadow and said, Lord, he is Pai Lupi. He is Pai Lupi? The old man in black was stunned and said, are you sure? I have worked with him for many years, and I can recognize him even if he turned to ashes. After the guard finished, he suspiciously said, but Lord, since he didn't come to you, how do you know what he looks like? When the city lord was still here, small characters like them were not qualified to see the old man in black. So, the old man in black was not familiar with many people in the city lord's mansion. He came, but only one person came. And he didn't mention a word about the Wu family head's request. The old man in black whispered, not a word? Didn't he ask them to come and report this? And Theta Wang, where did he go? The guard looked puzzled. The old man in black suddenly felt flustered, and looked at the guard and asked, did the young city lord come back? No. The guard shook his head. The old man in black pondered for a while and asked again, he really didn't come back? Really? I have been guarding the gate. If the young city lord came back, I would have seen him. The guard said. The young city lord didn't come back. He didn't mention a word about the Wu family head's request. Could it be? The old man in black murmured. Suddenly he seemed to have thought of something, and his expression changed drastically. He immediately turned around and rushed toward the treasure vault. Lord! The guard hurriedly shouted. Don't follow me. Go and tell the Wu family head that I am not seeing any guests today. The old man in black shouted without turning his head. Yes. The guard bowed and replied. What was going on? The treasure vault. At this time, it had been swept clean. Although there were no high-level artifacts or techniques, it was worth the trip to get so many soul stones and divine crystals. Of course, this was only for Qin Feiyang. The big black wolf was still quite depressed. It had found the treasure vault with great difficulty, but there was not even a peak-level artifact. All right. I will return this to you. Qin Feiyang looked at it speechlessly, took out the divine bow and threw it to the big black wolf. This was the peak-level artifact that he had snatched from the younger brother of the Wu family head. It was just a peak-level artifact. He did not care about it. If it was on him, he would find it taking up space. Before, the reason why he had not returned it to the big black wolf was because he wanted to teach this guy a lesson. Thank you. The big black wolf grabbed the divine bow and immediately became spirited. Now that you have the artifact, can you stop following me? Qin Feiyang said. You want to send me away with a peak-level artifact? I am not a beggar. Even so, there is still a legendary artifact. The big black wolf said these words without thinking. Qin Feiyang looked at it coldly. The big black wolf noticed that the atmosphere was not right. When he saw Qin Feiyang's expression, he immediately realized that something was wrong. Don't misunderstand, don't misunderstand. I am joking. I am following you because I value your character. It has nothing to do with worldly things like artifacts. You have to believe me. I swear in the name of the 3 black leopard brothers. As soon as he opened his mouth, the big black wolf could not be stopped and was full of flattery. Stop, stop. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand. If he did not stop him, who knew what kind of oath this guy would swear in the name of the 3 black leopard brothers? He could not let the 3 black leopard brothers take the blame. After all, they were all helping to find medicinal herbs. Believe me. I am such a person who cares about character. No, I am a wolf. If your character is not good, let me tell you, I will not even look at you. The big black wolf said proudly. Well, as long as you like it. Qin Feiyang rubbed his forehead, looked at the tightly closed stone door, and said, Go and blast it open. Okay. The big black wolf shouted, immediately grabbed the divine bow, and smashed it at the stone door. But it did not get close. The stone door opened on its own. Qin Feiyang's expression froze, and he immediately realized that the situation was bad. He took a step forward and grabbed the large black wolf before vanishing without a trace. The stone door opened quickly. A black shadow rushed into the treasure vault. It was the old man in black. As soon as he entered the treasure vault, the old man in black was dumbfounded. Where was the divine technique? Where were the divine weapons? Where were the Qiankuan ring and Qiankuan bag? They were all gone. There was no suspense. The old man in black who came back to his senses was immediately furious. His divine consciousness rolled out and covered all directions. Chapter 2383. But he couldn't find anything in his spiritual sense. Damn it, damn it. The black-clothed old man was furious. He turned around and rushed out of the treasure vault. Standing above the pine forest, he released his spiritual sense again. But he couldn't find anything outside. Bastard, don't let me find you, or you will die without a burial place. The black-clothed old man roared. His anger spread to the entire city lord's mansion. What happened again? The servants and guards of the city lord's mansion all looked at the backyard in surprise. In the castle, the big black wolf stood beside Qin Feiyang and looked at the black-haired old man in the picture. He laughed and said, It's obviously right next to him, but I can't see it. This feeling of being a thief is really good. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and lowered his head to ponder. Where would this medicine field be? Ask someone? It definitely wouldn't work. Because the medicine field was as important as the treasure vault for a force. People as cautious and selfish as the city lord and the black-clothed old man would definitely not tell others. Wait. Since the treasure vault was in the backyard, was the medicine field also in the backyard? Qin Feiyang drove the castle to the pine forest, and then turned the picture. In front of the pine forest was the lake and the attic. On the left and right sides, there were many halls. But behind the pine forest, he found that there was a mountain range, covering an area of about a dozen miles. In the divine land, such a mountain range was very small. But in a city, a mountain range that covered an area of more than a dozen miles seemed extremely vast. However, the mountains here were not high. In the mountains, the vegetation was lush and green. And in the mountains he didn't sense the aura of fierce beasts. It was extremely quiet. Since this was the backyard of the city lord's mansion, then the mountain range in front of him should be the back mountain of the city lord's mansion. If it were him, he would definitely put the medicine field here. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang immediately steered the castle and silently flew towards the back of the mountain. As for the black-clothed old man, to be honest, he didn't want to provoke him. After all, the other party was a perfect god. And, as a member of the dragons, he must have powerful divine weapons and divine arts in his hands. To be blunt, Qin Feiyang just wasn't sure. Where are we going now? The big black wolf looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. Qin Feiyang did not answer. While driving the castle, he scanned the screen. Very soon, he entered the central region of the back mountain and found that there was a large valley in front of him. The valley was surrounded by mountains on all sides, like an airtight cage. Qin Feiyang drove the castle to the sky above the valley curiously. Immediately, his eyes were filled with ecstasy. The valley was filled with medicinal herbs. Every stalk of medicinal herb was like a precious treasure, emitting a hazy glow. He recognized most of the herbs. For example, the tree of creation, the divine infant tree, the dragon's saliva fruit, the white jade fruit, the purple spirit grass, and so on. In the middle of the medicinal field, there were even more precious medicinal herbs. For example, the everlasting divine fruit, dragon god flower, departed spirit flower, een soul wood, primordial divine lotus, etc. More importantly, the ingredients for Nirvana divine pill and chaos divine pill were also available here. He only saw 10 stalks of flame sky grass. He also saw 11 earth flame flowers. He also saw more than 10 ninth grade immortal lotuses. There were even 6 Nirvana divine trees. One of the Nirvana divine trees was only about half a meter tall and did not have a single fruit. However, the other 5 Nirvana divine trees were all more than 2 meters tall, and there were more than a dozen unripe fruits on each of them. So many. Qin Feiyang's breathing became rapid. That half a meter tall Nirvana divine tree was obviously the one that Li Dashan snatched from him. The other 5 were undoubtedly obtained by the city lord. One Nirvana divine tree had more than 10 fruits. There were also flame sky grass, earth flame flowers, 9th grade immortal lotuses. These medicinal herbs were completely enough for him to refine pills. Suddenly, Qin Feiyang noticed that there was a strange tree beside the Nirvana divine tree. There were a total of 7 trees. Compared to the Nirvana divine tree, these 7 trees were extremely tall and thick. They were as thick as an adult's thigh. They were about 5 to 6 meters tall and had luxuriant leaves. Each leaf was the size of a baby's palm and was like a green jade carved with a hazy divine light. On the tree, in addition to the leaves, there were also many green fruits. The shape of the fruits was like a pear. Each fruit was as big as a fist, and they were also glowing with a hazy light. Fruit tree. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He had never seen such a fruit tree before. However, he felt that it was somewhat familiar. Wait, why did he feel that it was familiar? Could it be? He quickly turned around, ran to the altar and opened the alchemy scripture. Soon he knew what kind of tree it was. Divine green pear tree. The divine green pear tree used to refine the Nirvana divine pill came from this divine green pear tree. According to the alchemy scripture, it was squeezed together. The divine green pear tree had a total of 2 functions. First, the fruits of the divine green pear tree were sweet and had the effect of prolonging one's life and strengthening one's foundation. Second, the divine green pear tree. Every divine green pear tree would slowly condense a section of divine green pear tree at its roots after years of absorbing the essence of heaven and earth. The divine green pear tree was at most half a foot long. Moreover, digging out the divine green pear tree would not cause any harm to the divine tree itself. After digging it out, a new divine green pear tree would condense after a few hundred or a few thousand years. If the essence was abundant, it wouldn't take so long. A section of divine green pear tree would be born in a few decades. Qin Feiyang also didn't expect this. There were even divine green pear trees here, and 7 of them. To him, the value of this medicinal field far exceeded the treasure vault. He just didn't know if there was Mother Earth Chaos Divine Ginseng here. Because Mother Earth Chaos Divine Ginseng grew underground and couldn't be seen with the naked eye, he had to use his spiritual will. Qin Dage, you've made a killing this time. At some point in time, Huolian entered the cultivation room and stood beside Qin Feiyang. She smiled as she looked at the herbs in the medicinal field. That's right. We've made a killing. So many herbs, it's completely out of my expectations. Qin Feiyang chuckled. I don't know if you've noticed, but there are some herbs here that aren't recorded in the pill scripture. Fire Lotus scanned the few herbs in the medicinal field with suspicion in her eyes. Qin Feiyang nodded. Of course he noticed it too. For example, one of the small trees was completely blood red, as if it was soaked in blood. There were also a few blood-red fruits on the tree. What was even stranger was that, although the fruit was only the size of an egg, it had a nose and eyes like a baby. Qin Feiyang had no impression of this kind of small tree at all. Moreover, there was only one stalk in the entire medicinal field. Obviously, this small tree was even more precious than Divine Green Pear Tree and Nirvana Divine Tree. It was possible that it was the herbs needed for the pill formulas recorded in the next page of the pill scripture. No matter what, he couldn't let go of a single herb in this medicinal field. Phew. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and turned to look at Fire Lotus, saying, "Give me the axe just in case." All right. Fire Lotus nodded and immediately took out the axe and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang grabbed the axe and appeared in the sky above the valley with the big black wolf. As soon as he appeared, Qin Feiyang was stunned. There were so many herbs in the valley, but there was no medicinal fragrance in the air. What was going on? Could it be an illusion? Perhaps suddenly, his gaze focused as he scanned the air above the valley. The possibility of an illusion was basically not high. Then the only explanation was that this valley was sealed by a barrier. The valley was sealed, so the medicinal fragrance could not spread out. And not only was there no medicinal fragrance, he couldn't even sense the energy of the spirit vein and crystal vein. What are you standing there for? Hurry up and do it. The big black wolf glanced at him and rushed down the valley. Boom. Suddenly, a barrier appeared around the valley. The big black wolf was caught off guard and crashed into the barrier on the spot, feeling dizzy. But the barrier didn't even move. At the same time, the old man in black standing above the pine forest suddenly turned around and looked in the direction of the herb field. Why would the barrier react? There were no fierce beasts in the mountain. Could it be? Was it a thief who robbed the treasure vault? Bastard. The old man in black was furious and used teleportation to rush towards the herb field. However, although he was angry this time, he was more careful and restrained his aura like a ghost. Above the valley. What the hell is this? The black wolf took a few steps back and looked at the barrier in surprise. The barrier also slowly disappeared into the air. This is the consequence of being impulsive. I'm afraid that Long Qi has already sensed the situation here. Qin Feiyang looked in the direction of the attic and frowned. The big black wolf raised his eyebrows and said, "You knew there was a barrier here?" "I guessed," Qin Feiyang said. The big black wolf said angrily, "Then why didn't you tell me?" "I said it was a guess. Besides, with your personality, if you didn't see it with your own eyes, would you believe me?" "Get out of the way." Qin Feiyang glared at it in annoyance and swung his axe. Seeing this, the big black wolf hurriedly retreated. "Break!" Qin Feiyang shouted in a low voice, rushed to the top of the barrier in one step, and chopped down with his axe. Buzz! The barrier appeared again, and then with a crack, it was torn apart. "What? He actually broke the barrier that I set up." The black-haired old man who was rushing over suddenly showed shock in his eyes, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. To be able to break the divine barrier that he set up, wouldn't that mean that his cultivation was stronger than his? His heart couldn't help but beat like a drum. As soon as the barrier was broken, a strong medicinal fragrance and a majestic energy surged out like a flood that opened a gate. Qin Feiyang's gaze trembled, putting aside the medicinal fragrance, because everyone knew that it was emitted by these medicinal herbs. And that energy was the energy of the spirit vein and crystal vein. He had never seen such majestic energy. It was hard to imagine. How many spirit veins and crystal veins were there? "Mine. They're all mine." The black wolf was stunned for a moment and immediately pounced towards the medicinal field. Qin Feiyang ignored it and released his divine sense into the ground below the medicinal field. Immediately, his face was full of excitement again. Underground, there were a total of more than a dozen Mother Earth Chaos Divine Ginseng. His divine sense didn't stop and continued to go underground. Soon, his entire body began to tremble. This wasn't fear nor panic, but excitement. Excitement that you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.